everybody. Welcome to the Mike Missanelli Show, and a Tuesday show, and a lot of things going on today. Now, we're going to get into the dynamic of Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni through the revelation of sound bites. And also, we've got to speak about, really some current event shockers yesterday. And we found out about Dikembe Mutombo when we were doing the show yesterday at the Sixers Media Day. And then later that night, news comes down that Pete Rose dies. And so there's all kinds of conversation that we could have with Pete Rose. But we're going to have Larry Brown on first to talk about Dikembe, who obviously Larry was very close to him. And I was in contact with Larry Brown last night, and he was really devastated at that news. Dikembe was a pretty special guy to a lot of people, especially for his humanitarian efforts. And Pete Rose, not special as a humanitarian, but obviously a legacy that's so complicated. He helped the Phillies win a World Series here. He's the all-time hit king, and yet his whole life was kind of bogged down by other circumstances, including a gambling scandal. I just sort of record, not that this is important, but I was the reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer, me and another guy named Fred Tulsky, who had to go to Cincinnati and get a copy of the Dowd report from the lawyer's office and then decipher it within like 4 hours to meet a deadline of 10:30. So I was actually in on the story that the Dowd report revealed about Pete Rose's gambling habits.
Anything interesting in there?
Well, yeah.
Any big takeaways?
It was unbelievable. This is the old time journalism where you got two copies of this 300-plus page report, and you're trying to decipher it and get through it to write we had to write like 3 and 4 stories out of it. So, that was an exciting part of my life. But it has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about with Pete Rose's legacy, because there are so many people out there who believe that he should be in the Hall of Fame, and then there are others who don't. And the baseball executives were really earnest in keeping him out of the Hall of Fame. And now that he's passed away, because a lot of people think that now that he's no longer on the earth, that people will look at him differently and time will go by, and that in death he will get into the Hall of Fame. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll discuss the complicated legacy of Pete Rose. But first, I want to get into this Sirianni Hurts thing. It's really interesting to me because when a head coach loses his quarterback or never had his quarterback, you can't recover from that. That is a disconnect that you can't recover from. And if you read into it, if we read into it, players read into it also. And so their loyalties are divided, and they usually side with the player, which means the coach really can't win it back. But, Sirianni has gone to great lengths to kind of protect Jalen Hurts because he has to as a head coach. What he did last year with that silly pass when they went rogue, saying we were trying to get a pass interference penalty. And then after this game, that turnover really doesn't count because he was throwing the ball. He's done stuff like that all the time. And then yesterday he goes on to say, sometimes it is his fault, but I'm not going to tell you, hey, on this particular one, it was. I'm not going to do that. And then he says, does he have to have the clock in his head ticking? Of course, that's part of his job as the quarterback. But there are so many different things that account for a turnover. So he's trying his hardest to take the heat off of Jalen Hurts. Now, interestingly enough, in the press conference, and Ray, I want to play the question and the answer from the quarterback when he was asked about conferences and conversations with Nick Sirianni on how to do things. So let's hear this first of all, because I think this could shape the entire show today.
You and Nick are obviously big voices on the team as the head coach and the quarterback. As you enter the bye and you want to find an identity, do you two talk about maybe, what you want the message to be to the team or how you kind of want to handle, as you guys go into the second part of the year?
We have our moments.
Now, okay, that is so telling to me. Bill Colarulo with us, Ray Dunn obviously with us. Really? That's the answer? I mean, he gave a similar answer to that last year. It is clear that he really doesn't like this guy.
It's clear, and Jalen's making it clear. That's the frustrating part to all of this is, as the franchise quarterback, this is a terrible trait. You're supposed to be a leader on this team. I don't care if you hate Nick Sirianni. You should not give signals like that to the media, to your teammates, that you don't like this guy. And when he did it last year, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. All right, maybe we're looking too much into it. Then he did it again right before they broke after mandatory minicamp this offseason when they asked him, hey, what does that say about Nick Sirianni, that he gave up his play calling duties and he's not going to be as involved in the offense? Jalen Hurts could have given a very easy answer. How did he answer that question? Oh, that's a really good question. I don't think I know the answer to it. And now, again, having an opportunity to just throw a bone to your head coach. Don't give us material that we can dig into, and he keeps doing it. So, to me, Jalen Hurts is a smart guy. This is intentional. This is intentional that he wants everybody to know that he doesn't like this guy. And here's my problem with it, Mike, and I know people are going to accuse me of being a Sirianni defender. Let me get this out of the way first. Sirianni deserves a lot of blame. He's the head coach. But when we talk about the fact that this team is 3-8 in their last 11 games, and everybody wants to put the blame on the head coach, your starting quarterback in those 11 games has 9 interceptions, and he's put the ball on the ground 8 times. 9 interceptions, 8 fumbles. You look at the offense this year, they're a top 7 offense in terms of yards. But you know why they're only 15th in points? Because they are the second worst team in the NFL in turnovers. Only the Tennessee Titans have more turnovers than your Philadelphia Eagles. You can blame everything on the head coach, but guess what? We have a real problem with our starting quarterback, our franchise quarterback that's supposed to be a leader of this football team. And I've given him the benefit of the doubt, Mike. I'm not one of these people who's hated on Hurts for a long time. He is a bigger problem in my eyes right now than anybody else on that team.
Well, whoever is the bigger problem doesn't matter because this team right now is fragmented for whatever reason, whether it's the head coach and being a boob and not being able to be communicative enough with his quarterback, or whether it's the quarterback who's too stoic for his damn own good most of the time. Like, I don't understand the guy. I don't understand his demeanor at all. And maybe that stuff looks good on the outside, that he's a stoic guy, but he doesn't seem to have any flex to him. And that's important.
He doesn't. And Tim McManus, who joins us every week, he wrote that article during training camp. And one of the quotes, and I went back and read the article this morning, was, Jalen Hurts needs to improve on a habit of shutting people out when frustrated. Is that what you want from your franchise quarterback?
No, you really don't want it. Listen, I don't know if I disliked his demeanor. I thought it was strange. I don't like strange in my quarterback. I don't know if I like Brett Favre type quarterbacks either, but I certainly don't like strange and aloof quarterbacks. And I don't know. I don't know how his teammates feel about him at this point. I have a feeling that more team, as undisciplined as they were in that game, I think more people are not buying into the coach than the quarterback.
And that's probably right. But listen, when you are Jalen Hurts and the organization made the decision to bring back Sirianni, whether you agreed with it or not, as the franchise quarterback, it's up to you to rally the troops to make sure that they are playing for this guy. Look, Jason Kelce, one of the best leaders we've seen here in Philadelphia in recent years. I'm sure he didn't like Chip Kelly. Did he ever say publicly that he didn't like Chip Kelly? No. He came out and he supported his head coach. They did the same thing with Doug Peterson. Internally, you could feel any way you want. And I had people tweeting at me last night because I talked about this on Twitter. What do you want the guy to do? Lie? Yeah, I want the guy to lie to us. Don't tell us or give us signals that you don't like your head coach. That will have a ripple effect throughout the team. You want to sabotage the season because you don't like the head coach?
Well, maybe he's trying to sabotage the head coach and get him out of here. I don't. I never thought Jalen Hurts would be that type of guy, but that his demeanor says that he is. I mean, that answer. Let's hear it again. My mind was boggled when I heard this. All right, let's hear the question and then his answer.
Jalen, you and Nick are obviously big voices on the team as the head coach and the quarterback. As you enter the bye and you want to find an identity, do you two talk about maybe what you want the message to be to the team, or how you kind of want to handle as you guys go into the second part of the year?
We have our moments.
We have our moments. What kind of an answer is that? People hear that answer, like teammates hear that answer, and they go, "Oh, Jalen's out. I guess I'm not totally in then." On what earth is that a good answer?
It's not. It's not. That's why I look at this and I'm starting to think, is Jalen the biggest problem on this team? And last year, we heard reports from Jeff McClain, Joe Santoliquito, all these people about how the organization's not happy with Jalen Hurts' leadership. Remember all those stories last year? And I'm thinking, is this being overblown? They want him to be a better leader. Then you heard, I remember Lane Johnson went on, I think, the Rich Eisen show this summer, said Jalen's making an effort to be a better leader, meaning he wasn't a good one before. Is that the answer of a good leader? When you're asked a question about your head coach?
That's really, really telling. And it's a shame. You can't battle back from something like this either. Like if the quarterback has this kind of attitude, what is Nick Sirianni going to do? Send him baskets of fruit? There's nothing that this head coach can do to get on the same page. This is a fragmented relationship.
But what could have happened? Look, you may think that Nick is an absolute bozo, and I know there are people out there who think that, and the way he answers questions in press conferences, I get it. But what could Nick Sirianni have done to this man that Jalen Hurts is that upset with the head coach? He's not even that involved in the offense anymore. This was Kellen Moore's offense. And guess what, Jalen? Brian Johnson was your offensive coordinator last year. You had a turnover problem. Now Kellen Moore's your offensive coordinator this year. You have a turnover problem. That's not on Nick Sirianni.
It could be something as simple as Jalen Hurts is a serious dude, and he looks at this guy as, not a serious guy, like a Harry High School. Maybe it's as simple as that. I don't know what it is, but there's something there, and it's affecting the team, and we've got all kinds of examples of that we're going to explore. And also, Pete Rose, what are your thoughts? I'm thinking there are a lot more fans in this town of Pete Rose than detractors. So if you're one of those, we'd like to hear from you. 610-632-0975. Larry Brown will be on the show a little bit, and then Larry Boa to discuss the legacy of Pete Rose. He obviously played with him and knew him personally, and I have to say that Pete co-hosted the show just like Charles Barkley with me a couple of times during his post-career. Mike Missanelli Show. It's right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The fanatic. These Eagles are just, let's go over some numbers for right now. First of all, they're now 20th in the power rankings. 20th?
Who has them at 20th? I saw
Who have
CBS.
at 20?
CBS had him at 16.
The Athletic.
The Athletic has him at 20.
Yeah, CBS has him at 16. Pro Football Talk has him at 12. So they've definitely fallen on a lot of power.
Jalen Hurts is now 18 on the list of quarterbacks.
He's a problem, man.
But he is ahead of Kirk Cousins and Justin Fields and Derek Carr and Trevor Lawrence.
Jaden Daniels is above him, though.
Jaden Daniels is one notch above him.
Yep.
And there are people that right now will say, and I've read these tweets, I'll take Jaden Daniels right now over Hurts.
I'm not there yet.
A little premature.
Yeah, I need to see more from Jaden Daniels, but what you're seeing from Hurts over the last 11 games isn't good. The turnovers are a problem. Now, I will say this is a positive, Mike. We're talking about the power rankings. Eagles are still the favorites to win the NFC East. So Vegas hasn't changed their opinions. They're still a plus 105 on FanDuel to win the NFC East. The closest team to them is the Cowboys at plus 230. So Vegas still thinks that this team could win the division, and that means you get an automatic playoff spot. So I'm trying to be positive.
Yeah, okay. Let's be positive. But let's also look at some numbers here. Baker Mayfield in this game, where the week before they got him for 7 sacks, was pressured on just 22% of his dropbacks. His season average is 31.6. Of those 11 pressures that they did have on him, 6 resulted in incomplete passes or a loss of yards, including 2 sacks. Now, this is what I'm talking about, adjusting on the fly. If you see those results, do you not amp that pressure up a little bit?
Yeah, but that's not what Vic Fangio is going to do.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm with you, but he's not going to do it.
I want a coordinator that, okay, this is your base. I know the way you play it normally. But guess what? This circumstances in this game call for something different.
You would think, but that's not what Fangio's going to do. That's not what the organization wants.
But the game is fluid. It's live. You see exactly what they're doing. He's getting the ball out of his hands 2.2 seconds. Press up coverage. I don't understand how you don't adapt to what somebody else is doing. You didn't invent the game. You can't believe in your system that much to say, well, they're beating us against my system, so I don't have to change because my system is just stoic and so good.
It was very frustrating to watch. And honestly, outside of that Saints performance by your defense, the defense has been frustrating to watch all year so far. I mean, in 3 out of 4 games, right now the Eagles' defense finishes in the bottom of almost every category outside of red zone. The only reason why the Eagles are 2-2 is because the defense shut some teams down in the red zone. I mean, outside of that, Mike, 29th in yards per game, 27th in passing, 29th in yards per carry allowed, 29th in sacks, 31st in takeaways. This defense isn't a good defense. And we can talk about how I think Howie Roseman's more responsible, Vic Fangio not changing his scheme. There's a lot of problems on this team that go far beyond just the head coach. The head coach is a problem. I'm admitting that. Don't call me Bill Sirianni. But there are a lot more problems with this team that people are ignoring because they just hate the head coach.
There are problems on this team that are under the umbrella of the head coach.
Absolutely. The buck stops with the head coach. But if you remove the head coach now.
What do you mean there's more problems than Sirianni? He's the orchestrator of the problems.
There are more problems than Sirianni because even if you remove Sirianni from the equation, you still have a defense that severely lacks personnel. They lacked personnel last season, and how did they upgrade that personnel? They got rid of their best defensive player in Hassan Reddick. They replaced him with Bryce Huff. Come on. There's no comparison.
But Bill, I get it. And if you agree and get the coordinator to agree, and he's going to agree about the personnel, then you've got to figure out a way to use what you have in different forms. And that's under the head coach. You've got to say, Vic, we're not this. We need to do this. This is what the CEO does.
So you want Nick Sirianni, who's an offensive
He's
coach,
the
to tell Vic Fangio to change his style of defense.
He's the CEO, and he's got to be able to communicate. Hey, Vic, I know you've been in this league a long time, but look, we don't have the personnel to do this. Can we try this? He's the CEO. He's the head coach. He can't defer to a coordinator.
That's exactly what everybody wanted him to do this season.
But in this situation where things are not going well, and you see that Fangio, you saw Fangio's mistakes in this game, did you not?
On full display. But you really think that Sirianni could say to Vic Fangio, in game, you're going to change up your scheme?
Yes, he's got to do that. He's got to say, Vic, we listen. They're killing us on short stuff. Let's bring guys up. And Vic should say, okay, you're the head man. This is where there can't be that kind of thing where a coordinator, because he's venerable, has autonomy over the head coach. This is what I'm talking about, why they're fragmented. Is this guy in charge or not? And if he's not in charge, what the hell is he doing here?
See, this is where we disagree. I just don't think that Nick Sirianni is going to tell Vic Fangio, a 30-year veteran,
not strong enough to be the freaking head coach. And the mistake was bringing him back. That's simple as that. He's not strong enough to be the CEO, but he is the CEO.
But even if Sirianni wasn't here, this is the style of defense the organization wants to run.
I don't know or care about that. If you're going to be the CEO and you're going to oversee everything, here are things that work with us and our personnel. Here are things that aren't going to work. And in this game, this particular thing probably isn't going to work because of those things have to be ironed out during the week.
What time are we hearing from Vic Fangio, Ray, today?
Coordinators are at 11:30.
I'm looking forward to. I'm hoping people ask him some questions.
All right, we're going to try to touch base with Larry Brown to talk about the Kincade, who was near and dear to his heart, and of course, near and dear to everybody's heart with the Sixers made that title run against the Lakers. It is the Mike Missanelli Show. 610-632-0975 is how you get in. We're back after this. So, boy, a couple of shocking deaths that we have to process today that were very important on the Philadelphia sports scene and otherwise. Dikembe Mutombo, word had gotten to us early yesterday that he had passed away at age 58 of brain cancer, and it was a shock to a lot of people. I mean, we didn't really understand or know that he was dealing with brain cancer, but a terrible loss, and someone who can really articulate how bad of a loss this is to the basketball world and the world in general is the former head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, who made the trade to acquire Dikembe way back in that magical 2000-2001 season. We're joined by Mr. Larry Brown. Hello, Larry. How are you doing today?
Hey, Mike. Good to hear your voice.
Good to hear you, and I know it's under terrible circumstances here because you were very close to Dikembe. So if you can articulate your emotions, what this news, how it impacted you.
Well, you were around when we had to make the trade, and we had to give up a great player in Theo Ratliff. But it happened shortly after the All-Star break. Where Allen won the MVP. Dikembe was on that team in that game, but he was an incredible human being. We all know what a great defensive player he was, what a great teammate he was, but he was just an unbelievable human being. He gave back to the Republic of the Congo. He got everybody involved in trying to build a hospital there. He never stopped working on behalf of his country. My kids went to school with him, his kids, in Philly. And I got to spend a lot of time off the court with him and his family. And, he had an unbelievable presence about him. Everybody that met him felt like, he was a close friend. I oftentimes think back on how lucky my family and I were to coach certain people. You never imagine kids that you coach, their families come into your lives as well. But he was just a blessing to be around. He cared about people. He was just a great leader and teammate. And after he was done playing, just almost like Kobe, after they finished playing, they continue to do great things for people. And that's not always the case.
You got to know him intimately. What do you think shaped him to be this kind of a humanitarian?
I don't know. And, he went to Georgetown. I think he spent 5 years there, Mike. I'm not exactly sure. I'm pretty confident he had a year where he sat out. But, the guy spoke 9 languages. He's really, really intelligent. I think when he left the Congo and came over here, he just, realized, hey, the way my career is going, I think I have a voice and I can impact lives in a positive way. If I don't, I might be wrong, but I think Adam Silver made him an ambassador, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Because they recognized that, his voice really meant something.
I mean, the courage it took and the energy it took, dedication to build that hospital in the Congo is amazing to me. I mean, he had to raise so many millions of dollars to get that done, and he was tireless in doing it.
Yeah, and he wasn't embarrassed about asking somebody. He called me a few times and explained what was needed. You try to help. He really had a passion for doing the right thing. And he was tireless. But for me, when you get an opportunity to coach guys in the NBA, there's so many guys that try to give back, which is something that I, as a coach, you really admire. But he he was like no other, I don't think. But what a loss. I don't know if he was 58, Mike.
He may have been older.
They could have been 65. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was recently with Dave Hanners, and, David coached with us when Dikembe was there. And we were laughing, about, the way he talked, how old he was. Nobody really knew. It's harder for a little guy to play a long time, but the big guys, they just run straight up and down the court. Quickness and agility is not affected. So I really don't know. But all I know is my life was better. My family's life was better because of the fact we got to be around him.
Were you aware that he had brain cancer?
Yeah, about I think a couple of years ago, I heard that he was struggling with that. I think the last time I spoke to him maybe was 4 or 5 months ago, and it was just a short message. Thanks, Coach, for thinking of me. I appreciate you having us. Your prayers. That was it. But I had heard from a number of people, Aaron McKee and some of his teammates, that things weren't going well for him.
Well, that's a shame. But let me take you back to the basketball side of this, because that year was so special. And I've told you many times before, it's the best coaching job I've ever seen anybody do with that team. And you started off, I don't know, was it something like 40 and 13? But the way you guys did it defensively, and the way you scrambled, and the way you had Theo Ratliff as a center, hedge up top to stop those picks and rolls down there. And then you had to change it completely. So Theo gets hurt, breaks his hand, or whatever it was. Take me into the mindset of what you thought you needed to do at that point, because there were two choices. One, waiting for Theo, and maybe he'd be ready for the playoffs, or go out and do something.
Well, Theo had some knee issues, I think, and, Billy, and our staff, we recognized that, but that was really a team that was built, to really let Allen be Allen. We had so many selfless guys that did things to allow Allen to, do the things he was capable of. You needed a shot blocker, with that kind of team that we had that tried to do things defensively to disrupt people. You look at the league today, there's very few rim protectors in the league. The game has changed so much, but we were built, with the defensive mindset and maybe the best offensive player in the league. And we needed a rim protector. We needed, if you're going to go on to compete for an NBA championships, you knew that the thing would end with you playing against Shaq. And you really, deep down, you needed 18 fouls to play against Shaq, basically, because he was such a force offensively. But then as the season went on and Theo was hurt, we went into the All-Star break. Billy felt like I did and the rest of the staff, hey, if we're going to have a chance, we need to get somebody that could replace Theo, that could do the things Theo could do, and maybe even add a little bit. I don't know if that was the case, but Dikembe was an ultimate defender and rim protector, and I think he gave us that chance.
Yeah, but again, you had to change your coaching a little bit, because he was more of a post player. He wasn't going to come out and hedge. So how did that change your defensive mindset and your offensive mindset with him being deep in there?
Well, offensively, it didn't change a lot. Theo could shoot the ball from the perimeter a lot better than Dikembe. Maybe Dikembe was a little better on the low block. But I remember, Mike, when we were talking about guarding ball screens on the side and out front, I told Dikembe, we usually hard hedge or trap. an even late clock, we might switch. And I said, to be honest with you, Kincade, I don't think that is your best strength. And he would say, no, Coach, I do that. Whatever you ask, I do. And I kind of laughed because, as a coach, you might have your ideas of how you should play based on how you feel comfortable teaching. But at the end of the day, some guys aren't capable of doing what you ask. So then as a coach, you got to be smart enough to adjust, to go to his strengths. But, I teased him early in practice. We would get him out hard and have him hard hitch, side ball screen, high ball screen. But then in the games, we learned to, maybe go under ball screens, which people would look at you and say, oh, you're crazy for doing that. A guy will pull up and shoot a jump shot. Uh-huh. Well, I didn't see us losing a lot of games when we did that.
Yeah.
But we adjusted to him. And then when Geiger got in the game, or Todd McCullough, Todd was, a lot like Kincade in terms of, he wasn't athletic like Theo. So we adjusted to him. Geiger was a lot more capable, but we didn't want to be confused. So we eventually got to the point where we either went under a ball screen or fought over the top, and a big guy would help. But that being said, you got to have Eric Snow and Aaron McKee, and George Lynch and Allen, people like that, sometimes they could fight over the top and blow up a ball screen. So then you didn't put, a Kincade or somebody else at a disadvantage.
So when you got to the finals, obviously it's such a special team. There's been a couple documentaries on that team, and you win Game 1. What were you thinking after Game 1? That you could pull this off?
Geiger was hurt, and it was an issue whether he was going to play or not. And again, like I told you earlier, you needed 18 fouls against Shaq the way the referees let him play. So if Geiger's not playing, then all of a sudden you're playing Todd McCullough as your backup, and he's a rookie. That's not fair. And then to compound that, George Lynch was out. Yeah. So people don't realize we were playing Raja Bell, who we got from the G League late in whatever the league was, late in the year. We're starting Jermaine Jones. We're coming off the bench with Rodney Buford and Kevin Ollie and Raja Bell. We were really at a disadvantage. And in Game 1, Geiger played. I think he got 12 points in Game 1. Allen was incredible. We should have won Game 2. We just missed a whole bunch of free throws. But at the end of the day, Mike, they were great.
Yeah, they wore you down a little bit because Eric Snow was hurt too.
Yeah, I mean, we were playing, with an empty tank in a lot of ways. And again, I think if we'd have had 3 centers, and everybody was healthy, I don't know if we would have beaten them. I think we'd have maybe extended the series. But, regardless of that, Game 1 and 2 were ours to take.
Yeah.
But they were great.
Yeah,
they were deep. They were well coached. They had everything. But every time I talk to you, I leave with a smile because you recognize the character of that team. And, everywhere I go, people, I've said this a number of times, people don't know who the hell I am, but they look at me and say, hey, you coached Allen.
Yeah.
And I always smile because that just showed how many people, recognized Allen's greatness.
Larry, it was a beautiful team to watch. It really was. Because you had guys that played in the roles and you had that star who carried you. It was fun.
Yeah, well, I think people in Philly, really embrace a work ethic and a toughness and a kind of an unselfishness. And I think they appreciate that. You're talking about Pete Rose. what did he bring every day? He had an unbelievable work ethic. He hustled, played with unbelievable passion. I think in my heart, I've had no success in making kids play hard. That's a given. That's something that's hard to teach. But when you get people that play hard and compete every night, like Allen, like the people we had on our team, fans recognize that. They embrace that. They love that. And that can overcome a lot of deficiencies that you may have. And I applaud Billy and, all the people connected, Mr. Snyder and Pat, because they allowed us, to go out and pick people that, they allowed us to do our job. I get really upset when, people that aren't really true basketball people are telling coaches who to coach and what they need. If you hire a coach, and give him an opportunity to coach your team, you should also trust him and his staff and the people around to pick the kind of players that he feels comfortable coaching. And it's a combination of all working together to do that.
Larry, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Are you enjoying retirement? What are you doing now, right at this moment? Because I know you can't leave basketball alone. You got to be involved in some form.
Yeah, I love smelling the gym. I'm kind of recovering from a little surgery, but trying to figure out how I can smell the gym a little bit and share what I was taught. I'm not good at being idle, Mike. So, I got invited to San Antonio's training camp, and I couldn't go. And Coach Pop, we worked together for a number of years, told me they only have 5 days, and 2 of those days are two-a-days. And one of the practices during your two-a-days is a non-contact practice. I remember when I was coaching, we had 28 days to prepare, and we could almost go 2 a day just about every day. So if you have a young team that's trying to grow and trying to get better, I don't know how they do it now in the NBA. I don't think it's fair. I think they have load management in practice now.
Yeah,
and you can't,
yeah, they do.
And you're dealing with 19-year-old kids. You're not dealing with kids that went to 4 years of college.
So they're fresh. They're fresh. They can take it. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, those kids that are coming into the league at 22 when I was coaching are going to be much better prepared than a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
It's really not fair.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Larry, always a pleasure, man. Thanks for coming on. And I know you have a heavy heart with the Kincade, so I appreciate you sharing your sentiment.
I appreciate you calling me, Mike.
All right, Larry, take care.
Go Eagles.
Yeah, go Eagles. I like it. Thanks, Larry. All right, it's Larry Brown checking in, the legendary Larry Brown, spelling it all out. And, that team, it's one of the most revered teams in this city. And it didn't win. It's just like the 93 Phillies. They're revered. They didn't win. There's something about a team that hooks on with this fan base. That team did.
Well, the 0-1 Sixers, wasn't that the only time Iverson got out of the second round?
Yeah.
It is? Really?
Yep. So,
well, here's the thing. There are a lot of people who didn't think you could win with a guy like Iverson. That guy figured it out.
He did.
That guy figured it out. And that's why I go. When I watch that team every day and watch the way he coached defensively and had role players buy in, all of them to subordinate their star, that's how he won. It was a brilliant job.
It was, but it wasn't an easy job.
No,
that team wasn't all
no, it certainly wasn't
rainbows.
an easy job because they battled. He battled, and now they love each other. It's all about love with Larry Brown, Allen Iverson. Let's take a break. 610-632-0975. Mike Missanelli Show continues right now. on the intro music, the return music, right before we had Larry Brown on.
Yeah, you liked that?
Well, you know what it was?
I don't remember now.
It was Mannequin Pete.
Oh.
I'm going, whatever. Damn, Ray. Is that violation on Ray to play Mannequin P as we're going into Larry Brown?
We're going to Larry Brown. What if Larry Brown was like, hey, Mike, before we get started, I just want to say, big fan of that band.
Yeah.
So, from my vantage point, as the rotator started to churn here and I saw what was coming up next, I had a moment of, well, I'm really just going to have to lean into this one and let this one play. I was so worried about getting Larry Brown up. I saw the song and I was like, oh, no.
Oh,
that's good.
Now he just played Alex Sucks. So he went from Mannequin P to Alex Sucks.
He's a good DJ back there.
He is doing a nice DJ job.
By the way, did you see him in his dress shirt and everything? Look at him.
Yeah, what's up with the dress shirt?
I got a meeting today with the Temple folks.
Oh, Temple meeting.
Yeah.
You going to throw a tie on, or you go like that?
I will throw a tie on. I figured a tie was a little much for the show.
I got to check out your tie, though. You got to show you. Let me see the tie.
Yeah, do you know how to tie a tie? You good at that?
Yes, I know how to tie.
You go with
a
the
tie.
thin, or you go
think
with the nice thick double Windsor?
Oh, yeah, go thick. I'm not going thin.
Oh, we'll see that. We'll see his taste in ties in a second. The 11 o'clock hour is brought to you by Grungo Law, your law firm when you need help because of an injury. Pray for peace, prepare for trial. GrungoLaw.com. We're gonna have Larry Bow on in a little bit to talk about the Pete Rose thing. I'm stunned that people don't have the reaction that with Pete Rose here. I think that him passing away actually gives him entry into the Hall of Fame. I know there's like Jason Starr wrote a story that's never going to happen, and here's why. But I think that I always thought that when he was away from the scene and he wasn't the visible Pete Rose, the crude Pete Rose, that people would soften up.
You may be right, but for me, I look at it and I'm thinking, why do it now? I mean, the guy wanted to get in his entire life, and now he dies, and you're going to put him in?
Because you weren't going to give him the satisfaction.
That's what I'm saying. So why do it now?
Because time heals. Most of the people, I think the majority of people wanted him in the Hall of Fame, and they just were stubborn about it because it just was such a they thought it was such a blight on their game. Even though the climate has changed so much for gambling now, right? You can't have a player or a manager. That's what still draws the line. What the NFL does to guys that they find out have bet.
Look what just happened in the NBA. They banned the guy for life.
They banned the guy for life. You just can't do it because it takes away the integrity of the result. So that's what they're aware. But as time goes on now, people have a tendency to forget, and they remember more about he was the hit king than like all the crap.
Yeah, I mean, and that happens a lot. Whenever somebody passes away, they're always, they were the brightest person in the room.
Yeah.
Always.
The 10 o'clock hour, by the way, is brought to us by Window Nation. Take advantage of Window Nation's 50% off sale on all style windows. Plus, make no down payment, no interest for 12 full months. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. Ray, I want to make another point about this fragmented Eagle team because they seem to be oblivious to certain things. Now, that's first of all, we have the Isaiah Rodgers cut where this is a professional football player who makes a comment like this where he has no clue what the rule even is.
And that was a nice segue from the Pete Rose gambling into Isaiah Rodgers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, because Isaiah Rodgers
gambled. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the gambler.
Yeah, he's the gambler. So we're talking about the gambler.
Yeah.
And then we should play Kenny Rogers.
We should.
As a backdrop for this.
You got to know when to hold.
Do we have Isaiah Rodgers saying what he said about what his methodology was to cause a penalty on the other team, and it worked out the opposite way? Here's what he said about it.
What happened on the punt?
Me being a gunner in my career, I know not to hit the punt returner. So with me guarding him, I thought to myself, I'm gonna push him into the returner and get the flag because that's part of the game. So I kind of thought it was gonna be a flag, which it was, but they eventually picked it up and said because I pushed him. So I never heard that before, but it is what it is.
So you thought if you pushed him into the
which is why they threw the flag from the get-go. But for some reason they picked it up.
Is that something you guys have gone over?
Nah, not nothing we've been over. It's just something that I've been going throughout my career. Back when I was Indian.
Did the coaches do a correction with you on the sideline or say that was the right thing or the wrong thing? Or
I don't really think it was more so coming at me and just telling me the corrections. Like, at the end of the day, they picked it up. We can't really, we can't change the call. So it's really just moving forward and just continue to make plays throughout the game.
A follow-up question might have been, how did you not know that pushing a guy into your kicker is a penalty? Like, did I hear that question?
Yes.
You were not aware that pushing a guy into the kicker would I don't understand that.
I don't understand it either, and I know there were some who, once again, want to blame the coaches. This is a professional athlete. Like, you've played high school, college. You've played 4 years in the NFL. Do you really have to be told? Did Michael Clay really need to tell the Gunners, hey, guys, by the way, you can't push somebody into our punt returner? To me, that's common knowledge.
Maybe he should have, to go over the obvious. But a player's been in the league for a few years, doesn't know that?
That's what I mean.
And then is oblivious to thinking he did anything wrong.
That was worse than McNabb admitting he didn't know the overtime rules. Right? You're actually going to admit that after.
All right, now let's move on to this one. Because a lot of people are upset on social media, turning on Big Play Slay. Because he went on a podcast with Micah Parsons talking about C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Now, when I heard this, I said, well, I don't know what was that bad about this, but apparently they laughed earlier on before this soundbite that we're going to play you. They laughed about C.J. Gardner-Johnson getting beat for a touchdown.
They were laughing about CJ's play. Here, play. You have the clip, Ray? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, we're going to play this clip. And so this is Micah Parsons. And people were livid about that he would I listened to it. I go, I don't think that was that bad. But people were livid about Slay even going on the podcast the day after a loss like that.
It's
and
not just
yucking it up.
It's not just fans. So 42 minutes ago, our old friend Trey Thomas retweets the video and says, man, I couldn't imagine Bobby Taylor, Troy Vincent, Lito Shepherd, Sheldon Brown, or Al Harris going on DeMarcus Ware's MySpace to discuss Brian Dawkins' performance. I mean, that's coming from Trey Thomas. It's not just fans that are upset.
Listen, the world has changed now. It's a podcast world. So Micah Parsons is going to ask Slay to come on his podcast. He's not going to say no because they have that brotherhood, right?
But the day after that game?
Yeah, no, I get it. And that's what people were upset about it. And they were upset with the tone of it. So let's hear it, and then you can judge for yourself what this was about.
I'm going to still get locked up maybe for a game or a rep. It's just a game of football. It's just how it happened. What's your thought on that, bro? Like,
yeah, hey, one thing I know about 8, man. 8 go bring the noise. 8 go bring the energy. And 8 go bring all the trash talking that half the team's not doing. So he fulfilled that need for us. You know what I'm saying? He a guy with a lot of energy. He go talk that trash, but, hey, you go talk, you got to back it up at some point in time. And if you don't, he know for sure that media go catch it on the attention, and he got to be ready to answer every time.
All right, so people I listened to that, and I said, well, what was wrong with that, what he said? He's just being real about it. He can talk that trash. We like it. It helps us. But if you talk the trash and it backfires on you, you got to take the heat. What was wrong with what he said there?
That clip doesn't bother me as much than you got on there. And I don't even know what they were talking about.
We have an earlier clip?
Well, there's earlier clips where he's just, laughing it up with his buddy, right? Like laughing it up. And I get it. They're friends. We've talked about this before. But you just got absolutely dominated the day before. You went out on Twitter an hour after the game to tout all of your accomplishments. And then 24 hours later, you're going on Micah Parsons' podcast and laughing it up. Like, I get it. I get that you're friends and that fans sometimes want these players to be enemies, and that's just not reality. But don't you need a little bit more self-awareness, Mike, if you're Darius Slay?
Darius Slay has no self-awareness.
Zero.
First of all.
But shouldn't he say?
And that's one of my problems with a fragmented team. When you have a guy with no self-awareness, it's like a cancer.
But shouldn't you say as Darius Slay, hey, listen, Micah, I know I told you I'd come on your podcast. Why don't we wait till next week after the bye? Because this isn't going to be a good look for me. All right, no problem,
No,
Slay.
he's not going to think that because Slay's all about Slay. Well, first of all, how's he that close with Micah Parsons? What's the connection there? Why?
Who knows? I don't know. Who knows? All these guys.
Yeah, I don't think.
Well, Slay's been to Pro Bowls. Mike has been to Pro Bowls. I'm sure maybe they've met there. It's just a bad. It's just a bad look. It's just a bad look.
All right.
But you're right. I mean, this is
the state of the NFL. But it doesn't help to have guys who lose a game and then put their resume out on social media. That's where that bothers me more than what he's going on Michael Parsons' podcast.
No, but it's the culmination of all of it, right? It's the cumulative effect.
It is. He has no self-awareness. He does not understand when he plays poorly. Like, that doesn't even enter into his thing. Oh, I played great. The rest of the team stunk. Like, he's one of those guys, which is the worst kind of teammate you could possibly have.
But somehow this guy gets voted captain every year.
Yeah. 610-632-0975. We're going to talk to Larry Bowe about Pete Rose coming up after this.
All this
We had a couple of people pass away that were very important to their particular sports, not the least of which is the man who played here for several years and is credited with being the linchpin to get the Phillies over the hump to finally win a World Series. And our next guest obviously knew Pete Rose very well, played with him, and we thought we'd get Larry Boa in to share some thoughts of a man who was a very complicated man. He's on the Comcast Business Hotline. Hello, Larry. How you doing?
All right, Mike. How's it going?
Good. Now, it was very shocking to hear the news, and I don't know if you have any details on how he passed away, but what was your original thought when you heard this news?
Obviously I was shocked. I didn't know he was sick, or in fact, I don't even know what happened. I had somebody from Cincinnati that worked for the Reds call me and said that they thought it was a heart attack, but there was no clarification on that. So I really don't know. I mean, when I got the phone call, I'm like you, I was shocked that Pete had passed. And, a lot of good memories with him. I'm sure that if Pete could redo some things off the field, that if we could have our mulligans and everything, he would do it, because obviously some things that happened off the field, they weren't very good. But what he meant on the field, he was a special player on the field, no question about that.
Let's talk about that part of it and how special he was on the field. I mean, he comes to you guys, and first of all, what impact did he have on you as a player?
Oh, a huge. Before he came to Philly, I mean, when I first came up, I struggled early, and when we played Cincinnati, he'd always come over and talk and say, stay within yourself. This is what you got to do. Always. He was a very positive individual. He helped Mike Schmidt tremendously when he came over here. Not that Mike needed help physically, but mentally he told him how great he was. And every time the Cincinnati played the Phillies, he said, we were just as scared of you guys as you were of us. And sometimes Mike didn't realize how great a player he was. He's a very humble person. But Pete had a big influence. Him and Dallas Green had a huge influence on that 80 team. But he was probably the fiercest competitor that I've ever been associated with. I mean, I don't care if you're up 10, down 10. He never gave away at bats. He was he selfish? People say baseball players, some of them are selfish. Well, when you get in the box, it's you against that guy on the mound, and he wanted to get hits, and the pitcher obviously wanted to get him out. But to do what he did on a baseball field as a player, I don't think anybody's even going to come close to that.
Yeah, Larry, there's all kinds of personalities in a baseball clubhouse. Not everybody's the same. Everybody kind of rubs off on everybody else in a certain way. What kind of a guy was he in the clubhouse?
Very positive. All he did was talk baseball. I mean, he knew who was pitching against us a week ahead of time. That's how prepared he was. He would talk to us about what this guy tries to do to get guys out. This is how you got to attack him. I mean, Pete was 24/7 baseball. I mean, that was his life. And again, if you had a chance to play with him, if you played against him, you hated him. If you played with him, he was the greatest guy in the world as far as what he meant in the clubhouse. But again, if Pete could redo some stuff, I wish he would have, but it didn't come to fruition, obviously.
Yeah, and here's the thing. He left such a complicated legacy. A great player, but in a lot of ways a very crude man who obviously did these things off the field that made him look like a pariah in the game. We kind of knew that he was gambling back then, right? He was an action dog. He loved the horse race, and anything you could bet on, he would bet on. How did you guys handle that with him?
Well, the thing that we realized when he played with us, I mean, we all went to spring training in Clearwater, and when he was with Cincinnati, they were in Tampa. And we go to the dog track every night. We'd meet over there and have dinner and bet on the dogs, which was legal. I had no idea that Pete bet on baseball. And again, it's not the right. Obviously, it was terrible what he did. I just wish if we could turn back the clock, that once they found out what he did, that he fessed up and said, yeah, you know what, I made a mistake. I bet on Cincinnati to win. I think if that would have transpired when it first came out, he probably would have been suspended for a year. And the one thing that he wanted more than ever was be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm sure he would have been inducted in the Hall of Fame if he would have been honest with the people that had the goods on him. And he wasn't. And to his dying days, obviously this was his main goal, was to be a Hall of Fame player.
So, like during this gambling thing, you're saying had he gotten ahead of the story when they first got the information, yeah, I did it, I'm sorry, blah, 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 that would have changed his entire legacy here.
I'm not saying it would have changed his legacy. I think it would have put a close to the gambling thing. He did other things, obviously, off the field that people raise their eyebrows about, which, again, nobody condones what he did, but it would have definitely cleared up the Hall of Fame stuff. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that if he'd have fessed up and said, that was definitely wrong, and I made a mistake.
Did anybody ever try to give him advice to do that? The people closest to him?
You know what? The story I get, and there's no validity to this because I'm just hearsay. I know a lot of Hall of Fame guys that were in said just come clean. I do know that. And, Pete, very stubborn and stuck to the story that he started with. And eventually he did come out and say, yeah, I made a mistake, but it was way too late, I think.
Yeah.
It's a tough call. There's no question about that. I mean, it's right there. When you put a baseball uniform on, you can't bet on baseball. And he made a huge mistake. There's no question.
All right, let me ask you this. We're talking to the great Larry Bowa, who obviously knew Pete very well and played with Pete. The landscape on betting on sports has changed completely.
Right.
And so the people who are always upset that he's not in the Hall of Fame say, well, what did he do today? I mean, these leagues are in bed with these gambling companies. Like, how do you now reconcile keeping him out of the Hall of Fame? What are your thoughts on that?
Look, what you just brought up, Mike, it's unbelievable. You watch a baseball game, and in the third inning, the sixth inning, FanDuel, whatever it's called, comes on and says, oh, you can take the over now, or you can bet under, you can bet on Schwarber getting a home run. I mean, it's sort of talking out both sides of your mouth, I think. There's no question about that. But that's what it is now. It's a moneymaker in sports. And, if they had this back in the day, maybe nothing would have happened. I don't know. But obviously you can't bet. And I know he bet on his team to win. There's no doubt about that. There's no way. But, you can control that stuff the night before or something when you go to a bullpen or something like that, which, that raises a lot of eyebrows. There's no question about that. You can do a lot of things.
He also could never lay low. Like, even when he came back here the last couple of years and you guys were together on that broadcast, and he's in there and he's cursing and he's being crude, and he had that little thing with Alex Coffey about the allegations, the 16-year-old, all that stuff. He just never could get out of his own way.
Mike, I agree 100% with you. There's no question about that. When I give Pete accolades and everything, it's about what I saw on the baseball field, what he meant to me as I was coming up my first 2 or 3 years in the big leagues. The stuff he did off the field, like I said, it was wrong, and it's cost him. There's no question. I still don't believe. This is just my opinion. That now that he's passed, I just don't believe baseball is going to let him get into the Hall. I really don't.
Really, even in death.
That's just
because a lot of people thought that might happen, that people would soften their opinions of him. But you think that baseball is just that much dug in where it's never going to happen.
That's just my opinion. Yeah. But you take a look at, like I said, on the field, those things he did on the field. No one's ever going to do that. I mean, you're talking over 200 hits for 20 years. No one's. First of all, they don't have enough money to pay anybody to do that. And the games played, the hits, the runs, the doubles, batting average. He was, like I said, he was one of them. Well, for me, most intense person I've ever seen put on a baseball uniform. And his knowledge of the game was unparalleled to anybody. I mean, he would tell you things about what these guys do in the outfield. This guy goes to his right, he can't throw. This guy goes to his left, he's got a lot on the ball. I mean, he would break it down and just basically give guys heads up of what what was going to happen. And he was normally, I mean, I'll never forget the '76 game, the All-Star game in Philly. We had a bunch of Phillies that made that team, and we were going to face Mark Fidrich, and he says, "You guys, you see how he talks to that baseball?" We were all listening to him. He says, "I'm going to hit the first pitch right up the middle." It's unbelievable. He hit a line drive, and Fidrich went on his back. He went between his hat as he's falling down and his head, and it went out to center field. And I'm just saying to myself, this guy can tell you what he's going to do off of, at that time, Fidrich was probably the best pitcher in the American League. And I'm going, that's unbelievable. You can do that in an all-star game. And he did it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really nothing. He was an unbelievable base runner, not real fast, great instincts to go first to third with anybody. I mean, there's nothing fundamentally he couldn't do on a baseball field.
Larry, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the Phillies now, as they had to wait 5 days off. Whoever they play, they were leaking a little bit towards the end. They've got now maybe a problem with Ranger Suarez. What do you see right now with this team?
Well, the 5 days off don't bother me. I think it bothers me more for the pitchers. The hitters, they're going to be hitting every day. There's supposed to be a simulated game, I think, tomorrow. And I know a simulated game and a playoff game are completely different. But you got to do stuff like that. I think we're in a great position. I look at the seeds. There's no easy games. I'll be honest with you. There's no easy games. I know everyone's talking about Atlanta. They got nobody to pitch out there in San Diego. They find a way to get things done, though. I don't see anything in our way except ourselves. I mean, we got to just do what we're doing. We got a veteran team that's been through the wars the last couple of years. We got outstanding pitching. That the first three guys in the rotation, if Ranger's okay, I'll go 4 deep. Bullpen, power arms down there. We got to really concentrate on putting the ball in play and then having a 2-strike approach, which I think they will do. But talent-wise, I don't see anybody in the National League on this bracket that we're in now that should beat us unless we come out flat. And I don't see us coming out flat. I think they've been talking about this since spring training, about we need to get over the hump. And it sort of reminds me of the mid-'70s when we kept coming up short playing the Big Red Machine and the Dodgers. And finally, in '80, we got over the hump. And, you're only allowed so many chances in this game. And I think these guys realize that you can't keep letting this thing slip away. And, I'm looking forward to a good, deep run. And like I said, we're in a good bracket. And again, there's no easy games. The Mets play us tough.
From what I hear, you're predicting World Series here.
I do.
Okay.
This is me. I'd be disappointed if everybody's healthy through this whole thing and we didn't get to the World Series. I'd be very disappointed because talent-wise, I don't think anybody can match us on both sides of the ball. The pitching and hitting. Defensively, we do have a little shortcoming, but everybody's got some negatives in their lineups, whether it's defense, pitching. I mean, I look at the Dodgers, and we beat them up big time during the course of the season. But we can't look to the other side of that bracket yet. We got to take care of Milwaukee's a real good team, not a lot of power, good pitching. They run the bases exceptionally well, great bullpen. We're going to have to, if they win, we're going to have to match zeros with the Mets. Hey, the Mets always give us problems. I mean, it's going to be a good series if they get in. But I'm not in awe of anybody like saying, "Oh, you know what? This team might come in and catch us off guard." I don't think anybody's going to catch us off guard from what we've gone through the last couple of years.
All right, sounds good, Larry. Always a pleasure. Thanks for coming on. We'll talk.
All right, Mike. Take care.
Great, Larry Boa checking in. All right, let's go right to coordinator Vic Fangio's up at the podium.
Okay, who's leading off?
What bothered you the most from, I guess, the first quarter and a half Sunday?
Yeah, they came out throwing, obviously, and throwing quick, and we weren't close enough. We played a lot more man in those first 3 series than we usually do, or we were in some tight matchup zones, and we just didn't play it good enough. Their pass offense was better than our pass defense.
Vic, I'm curious as far as how the defense can look so good one week against New Orleans and then come out to Tampa and not look the same. Why is that, you think?
Well, it's a good question. they came out throwing real fast, real quick, and we weren't tight enough. And we fell behind the chains because of that. And it just kind of snowballed. We never couldn't make the play to get them the 2nd and 10 or 3rd and 10. And it just never happened.
Brady suggested on the
Who did?
Tom Brady on the telecast that you're not comfortable playing press coverage right now. Is there any validity to that?
No. Our guys, particularly the corners, have the ability to press based on formation. If they're stacking receivers and stuff, it's hard to press then. But on normal splits, they have the ability to press in almost all our calls.
It's up to is it their decision?
Yeah, it's by matchup and receiver split. Yeah, but we had more opportunity. We can press more.
When does that adjustment come? You say they're playing a little bit too soft, whatever. When does that adjustment come from you, or when do you try to make
it? Came, we tried to communicate that early, that we had to get tighter. And but credit to them, they threw it and caught it better than we defended it.
So what happened there, Vic? If you realize you have to get tighter and maybe that's relayed, is that the players not doing it? Is it you not coaching it well enough?
It's probably me not coaching it well enough.
Then what do you have to do differently?
Coach it better and do a better job during the week, and then understanding that sometimes teams come out in different stuff, different tact than what you saw going into the game, and we got to adjust.
Jalen Carter is on pace for 850 snaps right now, which would be 300 more than last year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's sustainable, or do you feel like you might be running the engine a little too hot?
I don't know. It's an individual thing. I'm used to in a lot of places where defensive linemen can play that much. To me, it's an individual thing. And it's also how the reps are falling in a game, In some of the games, the New Orleans game, we had a fair amount of 3-and-outs or 5-play drives. That won the case the other day, obviously, and then the heat factored in. So rather than it being a hard number, circumstances do affect it. But I do think guys are capable of playing.
What was the issue with the tackling? Or the lack thereof?
Yeah, lack thereof. A lot of times we left our feet too early. Sometimes we didn't wrap up well enough. We missed 15 tackles by our count, and that's way too many.
How do you fix tackling when you don't practice tackling?
Yeah, you emphasize it through film study, through practice drills, and better technique.
If it's a better tackling day, does that count with that coverage problem, or you still think it was too? In other words, if they tackled better.
Yeah, I follow you. The answer is yes, to a degree. A lot of their bigger gains came after missed tackles, so that would have had a major plus for us if we could have tackled better. But still, we got to be tighter too.
In terms of passing things off within zones and guys being in the right spot, having been as many places as you have, what is a realistic expectation for when that will sort of look like you want it to look?
Hopefully soon. Soon.
How much do you think Sidney Jones can contribute coming off? Sidney Brown, I'm sorry, Sidney Brown. Sidney Brown can contribute coming off the...
We'll see. We're excited to get him coming back. We all have to have some patience, which I know isn't a big virtue amongst any of us at this time of the year. The guy hadn't played any football since his injury, I believe was first week of January last year. Here we are. It's going to be in October. And, his OTAs and training camp are going to have to be squished together fast, and which he is ready to do mentally and emotionally, but we have to be careful ourselves to not overdo it with him, but overdo it from a physical standpoint and an expectation standpoint.
Did Reed enter the game? Can I follow up on that just a quick thing? What did you see from him on film that maybe you think can help this team?
Yeah, I think he's a good football player that brings energy. I think he's a good tackler. I'm excited to see him, for the first time, because I do think he's a good football player. Where he'll exactly fit in, we'll have to see.
Did Reed enter the game ill?
Yeah, he did, which I wasn't aware of until when he finally came out. They said he had been woke up sick that day, I think with some food poisoning. I'm not positive of that. But, yeah, I was not aware of that.
So the heat
Yeah, obviously the heat.
adversely obviously compounded that. Is that
Yeah, very much so. I would think so.
Nick said that
on third and long situations that extended drives. What's that a reflection of?
Well, the downfield throws, when the quarterback's scrambling, we got to be disciplined, the plaster like we did, but we can't hold. And then always the one offsides against us was, they actually moved, which caused it, but the refs didn't see it. And one time we got our head in the neutral zone.
Nick said that he sat down and watched all the defensive tape with you following this game. Is that the first time you guys did that, or is that a weekly thing?
No, we do that all the time.
And what's the value?
Just so he knows exactly what's happening and what we're coaching him to do and what's being expected.
Is that your experience over different stops, or is it just based on? Okay.
Yeah.
Rick, I know we asked you a lot about Price-Off and everything, but after 4 games, like, what are you seeing from him? I mean, what's kind of like the situation with him going forward, do you think?
Yeah, I think he's improving. When I say improving, against the run, that's something that he hadn't really been asked to do in his past, and that's been an adjustment for him. I'm seeing some improvement there. We don't ask him to drop very often, but when he does, I'm seeing some improvement there. So he's working hard at it. He's as frustrated with it as any of us are, but confident he'll get it going.
I think you had a couple guys go down with the injuries.
What's that?
You had a couple guys go out, Reed and Slay, and we saw Rogers come in and McCollum come in for some extended snaps. What did you see from those two guys?
Yeah, I thought Isaiah, he always out there a little bit, but I thought he did good. McCollum, he had a good week of practice the week before because, if you remember, Chauncey had a foot injury that came up during one of the walkthroughs, and he actually got a full day's practice. Tristan did on Thursday and Friday last week, and was very encouraged by that going into the New Orleans game. And then he got thrown in this week when Reed had to leave. And, he had some errors there, but overall, I'm encouraged by his play and where he can be eventually as an NFL safety.
On Huff, what are the tools that you liked about him that maybe you hadn't really had yet in a defense like this before?
He, obviously what he, in his past, pass rushing was his forte, and that was number one for us. And then see if we can develop him in the other areas too, so he can play more.
At slot corner, do you see Avante keeping that role here, or is Cooper getting up to speed where?
Yeah, Cooper's closing in on being ready, where we just at some point we'll put him out there. But Avante, has played fine in some areas. Obviously, he's had some plays that he'd like to have back, like all of us, including me. But, he's getting better.
What are Chauncey's issues in terms of, he keeps talking about technique whenever he gives up some of these touchdowns or passes. But what specifically does he need to improve upon in terms of his technique?
He needs to tackle better. That'd be first and foremost. And then be sharp in his execution, of his knowing his assignments and executing them.
Vic, just to clarify, do you anticipate having Sidney at practice once you guys get back?
I think so. I think so. That we're going to open up his practice window. Now, I'm not positive of that, so don't hold me to that. But that has been the timeline, over the last few months, and haven't been told anything to the different.
Will you look at him in the slot at all?
It's possible. But I think, a guy coming back from that long a layoff, it's best to get him in one spot before you start moving him around.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right. That was Vic Fangio. Are you Anything that stuck out to you there, Bill?
Yes, something we talked about to start the show was the style of defense that they were playing. Why were they playing so far off the wide receivers? And to your point was, well, that's on the head coach. He should tell Vic Fangio to change the scheme. Well, if you listen to Fangio here, they tried to communicate that early. I was confused. We tried to communicate it early to get a little bit tighter, but it just didn't happen. And then the follow-up was, well, how do you do that? I guess I got to coach it better. I don't understand.
Yeah, he was talking in circles there. He first said we weren't close enough. And that was the first thing he said. We weren't close enough in our man coverage. And then he said it's up to them. He said it was up to them.
Yeah, and then he says closer. We tried to communicate it early. I'm very confused by that.
See, that's a lot of nonsense he threw out there. Because if you're going to communicate something, then frickin' communicate it. You got a guy with a helmet microphone, right? Get him closer.
Yeah, it's not like you're trying to communicate things that isn't an easy thing to do. Move up a couple yards.
Yeah, I don't get it. No, I don't get it either. And it was weak. It was a weak answer from Fangio.
It was. There was a lot of weak answers from Fangio. He asked about the tackling. How do you fix it? Film, practice drills, technique.
I think he may have taken a shot at Jalen Carter a little bit, too. But he said it's an individual thing. I think guys are capable of playing.
Yeah. Who was that? Jeff McClain, who asked the question. He's on pace for 850 snaps. It was either Jeff or Tim.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know. He did talk in circles. And then he also said in the beginning something along the lines of, it's a good question on why we struggled. We weren't able to get them into 3rd and longs. Well, I mean, I know they let them convert a 3rd and 7 and a 3rd and 11 on the same drive after you just scored a touchdown to get some momentum. Fangio, I usually appreciate his press conferences. This was one of those where he talked in circles and tried to deflect, in my opinion.
Yeah. And, of course, we're waiting on Kellen Moore to get up there. So we'll see what Kellen has. I can't wait for Kellen. As long as you give me a bowl of vanilla ice cream.
Now,
with no vanilla bean specks in it. That's what he sounds like.
Yeah, he looks like he's a strawberry ice cream type of guy, though. I don't know what that means, but he just does.
Well, what? Strawberry ice cream.
I'm not a big strawberry guy.
What?
Vanilla or chocolate. My son likes strawberry, though. But hold on. I want to ask you a question because there's something that you said to start the show where I talked about how I do think Nick Sirianni deserves a lot of blame. But he's not the only problem with this team. We talked about the quarterback and we talked about the defense. And you said it's up to the head coach. If he's the CEO, it's up to him to go over to Fangio and say, hey, change your scheme today. Get these guys closer to the line of scrimmage. Well, hearing Vic Fangio say, we tried to communicate that. Do you feel better about the head coach? Worse about the head coach?
Worse.
Like, how does that not reflect?
It should not. How does it not happen if it's going to be a focus?
That's what I don't understand. So if the head coach and Fangio are on the same page here, we have to play tighter to the line of scrimmage, and the players don't do it. I'm at a loss here. I don't understand how that's possible.
Do it under the leadership of a head coach. The players aren't doing it. What?
It doesn't make sense to me. And look, it is. That's an indictment on the head coach, on Vic Fangio. I thought Vic Fangio was a no-nonsense guy. You're telling me when he says something to the players, they don't do it?
No. All right, so when do we expect Kellen Moore, Ray?
We got Michael Clay talking away right now, special teams.
So Ray saying maybe we hit a break here and then
go through the break with Kellen Moore?
And then when we come back, Kellen Moore, I imagine, will be at the podium. Then after that, we just pick back up the 12 o'clock hour.
Okay. All right, let's take a break then. Well, we're waiting on Kellen Moore. Hang in there, everybody. I can't wait for the offensive coordinator to say what he needs to say about his quarterback. It's the Mike Missanelli Show on Tuesday, and we're back after this. Brought to you by Service First Heating and Air Conditioning, where you can get 0% financing for 72 months and a $500 rebate when you purchase a complete heating and cooling system from Service First. Learn more at ServiceFirstHVAC.com. Let's go to the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles for his little Tuesday spiel.
Obviously, the slow starts have been an issue. So what is it with the scripts you think that haven't played to the strengths of your players or what you're seeing defensively?
Yeah, obviously we haven't started games the way we wanted to. Obviously this week being a bye week, we're just doing such a deep dive on so many things. And so this is a really fun task for us to navigate and just find a way to, get going sooner, get going quicker, because there are moments, coming out of second halves, we've had successful drives just coming out of it. But we obviously got to start faster. And so that's a big focus for us, just to continue to evaluate that and find our way.
What's your philosophy toward the opening script? Is it to see what the defense presents? Is it your best stuff of the week? How would you explain it?
Every week can take different paths. In general, usually it's about identifying the defense and getting touches to your players, and so those are really your main focuses there. Obviously we got to do a better job. I got to do a better job of finding that for us and allowing us to be more successful there.
So in this game specifically,
Are they consistently different than what you expected in each game so far to start out?
To start the games?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I think certainly there's going to be a flavor every game. I think defense do a tremendous job. Certainly you've seen it the last few years of giving you a little different presentation each and every week. We know certainly with the way we play our style, we're going to get some different looks maybe than we had anticipated, and so I think our guys do an excellent job. There's some really good examples of just playing adjustment football within the games. Obviously, we just got to start faster. As simple as that.
In this game specifically.
Is Saquon's play making you sort of reevaluate how quickly you want to get the ball in his hands and how often you want to get it into his hands early?
Yeah, I obviously want to get the ball to Saquon as much as possible, just like a lot of these guys. But obviously poor job just finding the rhythm in that game to go 3 and out, and then put yourself in a really challenging situation where you're going to have to play catch-up ball for the rest of the game, and you still don't want to lose the run game. You still want to try and keep it alive. Obviously, certainly we got to get him more touches.
You mentioned
the flow of this
you
game
mentioned the
specifically
studies.
change what you guys were, what the game plan was offensively.
Obviously, we just simply didn't do a good enough job starting the game. Starts with me just giving ourselves the best opportunity to be successful early in the game, to keep ourselves in that balanced attack. We know the way Todd's going to play it. He's going to do an excellent job of making it challenging for you up front. But obviously, we put ourselves in a challenging situation, and got to find a way to evaluate that, put ourselves in better positions moving forward, learn from it, grow from it.
But I mean, you came out in a bunch of heavy packages early, and then by the fourth play of the game, you're down 14-0. You're fighting from behind. Did that change? Was that the plan coming in, to be able to lean on that stuff, and then you had to sort of play catch up?
We obviously went into a point of the game where possessions became possessions and time became a little bit of an aspect of it, just because we understood we had to get this thing going. Felt like tempo also allowed us to play a little bit faster, a little cleaner. We had that good tempo drive in the second quarter where we were able to drive down and score a touchdown. It just kind of brought some juice and some energy back into us. And then we started the second half off, great with Saquon obviously makes the phenomenal run. We finished that one off. We're moving. And then, we just weren't able to finish it.
Kellen, during the summer, it seemed like we saw a lot of quick game with Jalen. Where he's getting the ball out fast, kind of being that point guard that he talks about. At least the public metrics say that he's 32nd in the NFL right now with time before throw. So what's kind of happening there? And is that something that you need to get back to?
So certainly part of the bye week process as far as us of what are we doing well, what can we improve on, and really focus on how can we move forward and pass game wise, obviously find completions, all that good stuff. Starts with how we design it, how we call it. We obviously have some great opportunities to grow, and it's exciting just because we get 4 weeks of evaluation, and then we get a little chance to reset here, and then put our eyes forward. And so we know we got some really exciting, positive opportunities that we can grow from.
I imagine that Jalen's involved in the game planning. You're going to obviously do what he likes, but what is that process, and how much is it more or less versus where you've been previously?
I think it's, at the end of the day, for all of us, it's just a continuous conversation throughout the week as far as we're putting the plan together, and then as we're practicing the plan and just going through those paths and navigating and having those conversations. It's been a really good process. I've really enjoyed it. Obviously, we're all not where we want to be. That's part of this, and so we're excited about where we can take this thing. We're really excited.
What was your view of the strip sack, and What was the intent of that play? Were you trying to push downfield there on first down?
Yeah, obviously a position where we kind of got into the high red zone. Felt like potentially we had an opportunity to try and drive it into the end zone based off the coverage that they were playing, and obviously it didn't happen. So obviously you're frustrated with the overall outcome of that particular play, and so had a potential opportunity, didn't happen. Got late in the process, and the guy retraced and made a really good play on Jalen.
Conventional wisdom says when you fall behind, you throw. But when your biggest big play weapon might be a running back, how does that kind of change the equation?
The biggest challenge is just keeping the run game alive in those situations, and I think the first drive of the second half, getting that run, getting another run, really that drive, we were able to steal a few run opportunities there. The goal is to keep it alive, obviously, because the more times we can get it to Saquon and Jalen can run it in situations, the more we're going to have a chance to balance out the defensive attack, not make us one-dimensional. And so we got to do everything we can to keep that balance.
What were some of the issues with the pass protection as you saw it? What were some of the issues with pass protection in your opinion?
I think from a protection standpoint, we put ourselves in a lot of really challenging situations. And obviously, you got to be really, I think you can draw focus on the obvious passing situation, but we got to be clean on first and second down. We got to put ourselves in those situations where we can have the threat of the run game still alive. And so, a couple of those came in those third and really longs, fourth and longs. When you put those in there and the defense can kind of play pass rush mode and kind of play, Todd's going to do an excellent job of gaming it up and bringing, combination pressures. You're going to put a lot of stress on it.
We mentioned bye week.
The first play of the game.
Yeah, first play of the game, obviously. We're just trying to get the thing started. Obviously, for myself, I'm really focused on how can I help him in any possible way from a play design and from a play calling sequence standpoint. And that the first drives really is a great growth opportunity for us coming out of this bye week that we can, we haven't been successful in 4 weeks. Doesn't mean we have to follow that trend moving forward. We can find our solutions and our better way to handle this.
He first played this past game. When you watched it back, the one where he missed Saquon, what's the message or the coaching point when you talk to Jim?
Yeah, those are challenging situations where you're rolling out, and obviously there's a big play potential opportunity, but obviously from a QB's vision standpoint, obviously we can see it from a wide camera angle and see these open, but kind of hard to see if you can identify where the safety's at as the throw goes, and so it ended up out of bounds, unfortunately, and so. Not the end of the world. Obviously, we got great opportunities to grow past that.
You mentioned the bye week process. Obviously, it's early, not the biggest sample size. Does that complicate things, especially when you don't have AJ for the majority of that time when you're trying to study the offense as a whole?
Yeah, good discussions. I think it's just an awesome opportunity for us collectively as a staff with the players yesterday, just to have those conversations and really look at the data, but then look into the context obviously associated with it. Because for example, this last game, obviously we got in too many obvious pass situations, and so that can dilute some of the circumstances that you're throwing the football in, and so. Personnel obviously factors go into some of those situations, but it's a really great opportunity for us just to grow from this and kind of look at it and see. Okay, there's certainly some positives within this, and there's some great opportunities to grow.
Does Jalen need to go through his reads faster?
No, I think Jalen's doing a really good job as far as handling this thing. I think for myself, it's about sequence. It's about when we call the plays, allow ourselves opportunities to grow there. I'm really excited with where we can take this thing.
Why is it taking so long to get production from Jahan?
I think Jahan's going about this the right process. He's done a really nice job as far as coming in here and getting acclimated. Again, like a number of our guys, I think our focus on is how can we give these guys the best opportunities to be successful, give them more targets, more looks. I think he had some in there, and we just weren't able to get to him.
Does Jalen need to work on his ability to trust the receivers who aren't AJ and Devontae?
No, I think Jalen's handled a number of different guys playing a number of different roles this past few weeks, and so those are situations that the more you spend time around those guys, the more you build that cohesiveness, the anticipation, and all that fun stuff. I think that'll come, and so we're excited about these guys. We got a great depth in that receiver room, and we're going to need these guys as the season goes on because a lot of guys are going to have to play and be counted on.
What's your
you know what? We lost it, and that's good. That's fine by me, because I've kind of had enough. The only mystery that it was going to be the final total of obviously's that he threw in there. This is like how that was 10 minutes. right? He said, obviously, Bill, by my count, 28 times.
Yep, 28.
And he said obvious twice.
Yes. Obviously, he likes that word.
30. What do you got to be kidding me?
Obviously.
This guy is maybe the worst I've ever heard as far as giving information.
Well, could you imagine the conversation between him and Sirianni? Sirianni's going to say, we need to get the ball to Saquon, right? And then Kellen's going to respond, obviously.
Obviously. He said, he threw in, it starts with me. He threw in, we put ourselves in better position. And he said a couple times, we're really excited where we can take this thing. Why are you got to be – what? The fans owe more than this nonsense. I got to be honest with you. I wouldn't even have him up there. I wouldn't even request that the offensive coordinator gives you any information. It's a waste of time. Seriously. If I'm a reporter, I go, what the hell am I getting out of this guy?
Nothing. Everything's a fun process. Hey,
it's
Kellen,
so much fun.
You haven't scored a point in the first quarter in 4 games. Yeah, it's going to be a real fun process.
It's a fun process.
Figuring that out.
This is nonsense.
It is nonsense. It is. Look, I don't care about press conferences, though. I really don't. And I said that about Sirianni. I know he's bad at press conferences. Kellen Moore's not good at them either, obviously.
It's just a waste of time.
It is. It's just a waste.
It's a waste of time. And we sit here, we try to give information to fans with this guy, and it's ridiculous.
But one thing that I picked up from that Kellen Moore press conference.
You picked up something?
Yes. And it's the same thing we've been picking up from the Sirianni press conferences. Are they ever going to hold Jalen accountable for anything?
Well,
ever.
They can't. Listen, I don't expect him to, but he can, at least say, yeah, the guy asked him, should he get the ball out of his hands quicker? Yeah, I think we need to work on that.
No, it's just Jalen doing a great job.
Right. It's ridiculous.
And look, I'm not saying throw the guy under the bus, but neither Kellen Moore or Nick Sirianni has ever said, yes, Jalen needs to be better in that position. Even Nick Sirianni yesterday about the turnover. You know what he said? Turnovers are a team stat. Like, that strip sack was a team turnover. Come on.
That guy's the worst I've ever heard. That guy bores the crap out of me.
Well, maybe this is why Kellen Moore, even though he was the boy wonder in Dallas, never got a head coaching opportunity.
Does he sound like a head coach to you?
He does not. That's what I'm saying. It may just be either does Nick.
He sounds like marshmallow fluff.
Either does Nick. Speaking of fluff, this is a little bit of a weird transition. Went to this place over the weekend for dinner. They brought me sweet potato fries, and it came with a little side. And I'm dipping my sweet potato fries in this, thinking this is delicious. So I asked the waitress, "What is this?"
Marshmallow fluff?
It was fluff with cinnamon.
Okay.
So there I am eating dessert, thinking I'm eating dinner.
I didn't go for the sweet potato fry.
Me and you are going to disagree on that. The sweet potato fry is obviously superior.
I don't hate it, but I'm not taking it over a regular fry.
Oh, I disagree.
Oh, man.
Love the sweet potato fry.
What are you? You're an American. You go sweet potato fry over a regular fry?
I think I do.
Oh, dude.
But I do think it's a violation to throw marshmallow fluff and not tell somebody what it is. Little did I know I'm down in marshmallow.
They don't have to tell you. That's the way they exemplify the product.
Was pretty good, though.
Yeah. 610-632-0975. Here's what we're going to do. We got the news at noon. Chuck from West Philly's been hanging for a long time. I want to get to Chuck because he's going to tell us about one of my favorite callers from back in the day. So I appreciate him holding on. It's the Mike Missanelli Show. We're back after this.
We caused quite a stir with the sweet potato fry take.
Yeah, listen to me. Occasionally, I will have a sweet potato fry. But are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? To take sweet potato fry over a regular fry?
If I'm at a place and sweet potato fry is an option, I always go with the sweet potato fry over the regular fry.
That's the oddest thing I've heard in many odd things you've said.
I take the sweet potato over the regular potato.
Oh, my God.
Big fan
You
of the
got
sweet
Irish
potato.
people, like, falling down and driving their cars into a post.
I apologize, but
come on, man.
I'm right here, man. Why would you say that?
Here.
I'm right here. The beard's red again. Please. A little bit of respect. I don't tell you how to make your meatballs.
You don't. That is a good point. The sweet potato fry is a superior fry. I'm just saying.
So
and the sweet
you
potato.
got an Italian mother, right?
I do.
Italian
yes.
mother, Irish father. The Irish father's not going for the sweet potato over a regular potato. is he?
No. No, not at all.
Come on, man.
Never once.
I believe the sweet potato is a healthier potato.
Well, it is.
Oh.
But come on. Are we really going to, have French fries, whether they're a regular potato or sweet potato, as health food?
Be healthier for me not to drink a beer. It doesn't
Seriously.
mean I'm not going to do it. Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean,
things you do.
a French fry in of itself is not a healthy thing.
No.
That's not why I go with the sweet potato. I just think the taste of the sweet potato.
It strikes me as why you do it.
All right. Before we get to the news at noon, let me get Chuck from Philly. He's been hanging on for a long time. Chuck from West Philly. Chuck, how you doing?
What's going on, Mikey Miss? What's the deal, man?
How you feeling? I know what you want to talk about. I'm sorry to hear this news.
I know. You know what? After all the fun you guys are having, I feel like I'm a wet blanket coming in with this. But it was funny what you guys are talking about. You can't take a baked potato if I'm having, a baked potato French fry if I have like a cheeseburger or something with that, right? That doesn't go. It doesn't go together.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, you talking about a sweet potato fry with a cheeseburger?
Yeah.
That's what I had on Saturday. It's
see.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect combination.
No, it's like too sweet. It's too. I need that salty. I just need that salty.
Omar, you're right. You're absolutely right.
See, I like the salty.
99% of the population is going to take the white potato over the sweet potato.
And the sweet potato fry hasn't been out that long. It feels like maybe 10 years. It hasn't been a long time.
It's it's artsy. It's an artsy thing. See, Bill's a little artsy when it comes to that.
I've never been accused of that.
Bill's a little trendy.
Never been accused of that.
No, but just real quick, man. It's been 4 years ago today that we lost Omar from the barbershop.
Yeah,
man.
that
was
really
my
makes
first
me
cousin.
sad because he was great. He was a great caller, Omar, from the barbershop. He's your cousin?
That was my first cousin. Our mothers were sisters. And I don't know if you remember back then, his mother had passed like 2 days before that.
Yeah.
So it was like a real hard time for our family. But it was really wild, man. I was I've been listening to the show for over 10 years. I didn't even know that my cousin listened or called in. And I was coming home one day with the kids, and I hear his voice on the radio. Just to let you know, he goes by another name in the street.
Okay.
So I'm like, Omar from the barbershop, who the hell? And I called my cousin, like, yo, I didn't know you called in the Mikey Miss show. Yeah, cuz I've been listening for a long time. So it just was funny. And
Yeah, he's a great caller, and we're going to miss him, man.
Absolutely. Real quick though, because two things. I'm still a big Wire fan, man. I watch The Wire every day. I got it on 24-hour loop on my streaming service. So I just come in and I just fall into season 2, episode 3. It doesn't matter, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But one thing, I wanted my cousin to ask you this, and he said he was, but I don't think he did. Goodfellas. I know you're a Goodfellas fan.
Yeah.
Did you ever notice the part where Karen, she has the gun to Henry's face because he's cheating on her?
Yeah.
He smacks the gun out of her hand. Remember, he has on the floor.
Yeah.
When he gets up off the floor, he steps on her hand. And a lot of people don't notice that. She doesn't scream or anything. She winces, and then he walks out the room, and then she screams, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I'm like, damn, nobody peeped that he stepped on her hand, and she was such a good actress. She didn't let that.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
She took one for the team.
Go back and watch it, man. Tell me if you noticed.
I will definitely, because I notice little things like that. That's almost like me continuing to do the interview with Julius Erving while his dog is humping my leg.
Yeah. Yeah, you took one for the
She
team.
had to take to see if she got stepped on with the hand. It was like,
And it was Akira the Akita. Wasn't that what the dog's name was?
yes,
How about that memory?
yeah, from Doc. Yeah,
You do listen.
Hey, every once in a while, I have my moments.
The one thing that sticks out in your brain, a humping dog. That was it.
Are you crazy, Karen? I got to worry enough about this on the street. I got to do it in my home.
Ray doesn't know who that is.
Oh, that's.
Yeah, I watched Goodfellas.
Oh, you did watch Goodfellas.
yes.
That's the scene. That's the scene where he flips her and then
Yeah, that's a good scene.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the caller was talking about The Wire. My wife texted me yesterday that Frank Sabatka and his friends are about to go on strike down at the docks.
Oh, yeah.
I had to run to Costco yesterday, load up on toilet paper, soap, toothpaste.
You're like one of those guys that, here comes a storm. I got to buy milk and eggs.
That's not me at all. My wife's the one who's telling me I got to do it. And, hey, when she's 6 months pregnant, whatever she asks, I do. That's the type of husband I am.
All right. Do we have time for news at noon? No, I guess we don't. So let's take Mark in New Jersey. Mark, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's up, Mark?
Hey, Mike. Hey, Bill. How you guys doing today?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good, Bill. Total violation, man. Sorry, dude.
What, with the sweet potato fries?
Come on.
You guys don't know. So
No,
you got to
listen,
be.
Listen, don't get me wrong. I'll have a sweet potato fry. I'm not choosing it over a regular fry.
You got to be able to buck the trend, man. Sweet potato fries are superior.
Curveball every once in a while to excite the taste buds. I get it. So that's as far as it goes for me. Real quick, before I get my point about the press conferences, Mikey, I'm not sure if you've seen the videos of Frankie Valli rolling around with him lip syncing in the Four Seasons, and it's pretty bad, and people are not.
No, I haven't seen. I haven't seen that. I'm not like a Frankie Valli guy, so
I've been seeing it on Twitter.
Oh, really?
He's
lip singing.
They got to stop putting him up there.
Like 88.
But it's bad, Mark. I'm with you. They got to stop. They got to stop. It's embarrassing, the poor guy. Give him some dignity. He must owe people some money that they keep putting him up there like that.
Well, I was going to say that's what I was about to say. Max is he probably still has some pockets he's got to fill still. But he responded. He said he wants to go out there. No one's making him go out there. But anyway,
I thought that he got popped in the head by some Italian hitman in The Sopranos.
Oh yeah, he did.
Rusty.
Now he's a doll now. You know, they're controlling him that way.
The little guy.
Wow, he's 90.
He's got to go. He's 90 years old.
90 years old.
Sherry. Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, but the press conferences. Well, for one, Kelmore does nothing for me either. Whatever. But the Fangio thing, and he said something to me that really kind of alarmed me. And I was talking to the screener, and why is he in the press box? If there's a communication, I tried to communicate that they should be pressing more.
Yeah, Bill just brought that point up. Listen, it shouldn't matter. He's going to get the same. Like he can send the same message down to a guy with the headphones who's got the helmet.
Grab Slade's face mask by himself and see him and be like, Slade, press, or
Yeah, exactly.
Like, come on.
So the message comes into the headset, and the linebacker says, "All right, get up." Like I don't get
the
it.
effect with him being on the sideline, I think the effect is more, and you see his face, you see how steamed he is.
Yeah.
They're not compliant to what they're saying. I mean.
Yeah, well, man, you know what? Maybe he should. I don't know. Maybe that's a change they'll make. But he calls the shot at this point. He doesn't want to go on the sideline. An older guy. Nah, I'd rather be up here. 610-632-0975. I swear to God, the news at noon is coming up right after this. So thanks, everybody, for listening out there. And now it is time for our 12 o'clock feature. We do it every day, except for unusual circumstances like us being at Sixers Media Day. It is called The News at Noon.
There's a whole lot going on in this world. It's time to catch up. Here's the News at Noon. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
And, of course, News at Noon is brought to us by producer Ray Dunn. Ray, what do you have today?
All right, I got a theme today. And this is something that's just the last 24 hours really started to get me thinking about with all these different things I'm seeing out there on social media. We're going former Philadelphia sports figures today just because there's a lot going on with them, and I want to catch us up with all of them. Things are spiraling pretty bad down there in Jacksonville right now, and we've gotten to the portion of the spiral with Peterson where he has to defend Press Taylor to pretty much the ends of the earth to everyone else. So here we go. Him trying to defend the play calling and in the same way taking a shot, I guess, at his entire team.
Is there any chance you take the headset over just to change this thing up?
For what? I thought he called a great game. We as coaches, we can't go out there and make the plays, right? It's a two-way street. So, you guys can sit here and point the finger all you want, and that's fine. Point it right at me. I can take it. Okay? I can take it. So, whatever you want to ask me, say, whatever, write, go ahead.
Now, he says you can ask him about anything.
Yeah.
So, naturally, you're 0-4. Let's ask if you're concerned about your job status.
My status?
Yeah. After an 0-4 start.
I mean, no. I mean, it's kind of a strange question, but okay.
Well, it's not a strange question. It may be, may get under your skin a little bit, but you're 0-4. And I know it's really tough to face that hard-hitting Jacksonville media down there, Dougie,
Yeah.
but they kind of have to ask the question at this point, right? And he's protecting Press Taylor, right? Protecting him.
He's protecting Press Taylor, but here's the reality. We love Doug Peterson, right?
I don't love him.
Well, I mean, in the city.
Yeah, you love him.
You love him because he brought the only
city
Super
loves
Bowl.
him. I don't love him. I always thought he was a dope.
But how about
I'm
this?
Sorry, go ahead.
Since the Super Bowl, Doug Peterson's record is 42-48. If you take out that Super Bowl season where they were 13-3 and then won 3 playoff games, so 16-3, his career record as a head coach is 49-57. So the reality is, he's not a good coach. He's just not.
We want Philly? Yeah.
Him and Nick Foles, what a magical run they had that year.
Next.
All right, I was waiting. I didn't know if that was going to spin into a Sirianni defense. It did feel like we were teetering right there. I was like, when's Sirianni going to come into this conversation?
Good one, Ray.
All right, now we're going to move on. It's media days around the NBA, and I've been kind of sitting on this audio. It came out last week in a podcast with Matt Barnes, Steven Jackson, All the Smoke. It was Tim Hardaway Sr. talking about Heat people and their perspective on Jimmy Butler, and I think we get a little glimpse into why Jimmy Butler was so subdued at Miami Heat Media Day yesterday.
I told some people, I said, Pat gonna talk this year. Especially, he's tired of a lot of things that's going on with the team. He's tired of Jimmy Butler.
Well, and Tyler Hero too. He been babying Tyler Hero for a minute, and he just staying hurt. He ain't showed up yet either.
Right.
So I think he was talking to him and Jimmy.
Yeah, more so, if Jimmy didn't say nothing, about other teams and you're not playing, it would have been all right. But when you came out and said that, he's probably talking about both of them. But I think he really talked
directed
about
to the star.
Yeah, directly. Yo, dude, you haven't played in a lot of games this year or last year, and especially in the playoffs. I need you to play in the playoffs. If you play more than 70 games, we wouldn't be in play-in games 2 years in a row. All right? I need you to play. You need to take care of your body. You need to be in this gym taking care of your body. Not the gym, but the weight room, taking care of your body and getting yourself straight. And I was waiting on that. We all understood. All Miami Heat people understood where Pat Riley was coming from.
Oh, well, Pat usually doesn't hold back.
No,
and he's right about Jimmy Butler. You don't play that many games, you got to be in the play-in.
Yeah.
Which is the same worry I have about Paul George.
Paul George's coming off a year where he played over 70.
Yeah, and before that, 42,
Yeah, we ignore that.
43, whatever.
I am shocked, though, that Jimmy Butler's still in Miami after Pat Riley told him to shut his mouth.
Well, what's he going to do? Can't do anything about it right now.
I thought for sure they would
play out this year.
Yeah, but you know how the NBA is now. If a player doesn't want to be somewhere, they're not.
But Jimmy likes Miami.
Yeah.
Oh, Jimmy likes himself some Miami.
Yeah, he does. He does. But when Pat Riley said, keep your mouth shut, I thought that would have been the end of it.
I remember the rumors around here when he was a pending free agent. There was a rumor he bought a house in Ambler, and everybody got all giddy. Oh, you got to say he wants to stay here. That didn't work out.
Yeah, there were the same rumors that LeBron was touring local schools for his son.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. My man Jimmy driving a pickup truck listening to country music in Philadelphia.
I thought he drove a minivan.
No.
He has the pickup truck?
Pickup truck, and he's a country music fan. Explain that to me.
I can't. I'm not a country music guy.
You think he was rooting for Paul George to stay in L.A.? So would it give him any leverage to get out of Miami?
Why, you think he would have pushed to come back?
Would have given him leverage. Yeah, no. Where was he going to go this offseason?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
New York? Wasn't the Knicks interested before they made the Bridges trade?
If he doesn't, Pat Riley's going to say he's going to get another big contract. So it's up to him. All right, next.
All right, and finally, we're talking former 76ers at Media Day. Ben Simmons. He's healthy. He's going to play, right?
For training camp, and as of right now, you'll be available on opening night.
To compete and play. Yep, ready to go.
We talked to Cam Thomas. We talked to Cam Johnson. We were just discussing this, and they said you at the top and healthy, 100% is going to make this team work like a well-oiled engine.
Yeah. I think people forget, me as a player when I'm healthy. I can play basketball. I'm pretty good, right? So for me, it's just being consistent with that and staying on top of my body and just getting better every day and staying in the gym with these guys.
Interesting. That interview was conducted at media. I happened to watch that on television last night because that's my buddy Frank Isola who asked the first question. So I texted him and I said, "Was it difficult for you to interview that bleeping fraud Simmons today?" and I won't tell you what he replied to me. But then I said, "I'm pretty good," and I went, "I'm pretty good. My ass is my next test." I said to Frank, I saw one. Yeah, that was Nets Media Day. It was on television last night. I happened to be flipping through. It was on NBA TV.
The only person who may have less self-awareness than Darius Slay is Ben Simmons.
Don't even get me started. He's got a big smile on his face, like he's King Tut. Like, dude. He is the most annoying thing that has ever passed through my life in sports. He really is. I can't stand him.
You know what? You may not be wrong. I mean, you look at Philadelphia sports in the last 30 years. Is there anybody that's been more annoying and frustrating than Ben Simmons?
And I was a proponent of him. People will tell you that I thought he was a gifted player who gave you such an edge on what he could do. And I go, but after a while, I go, a guy that won't take a freaking jump shot has no place in my life. That was the end. And then the way he was so misguided about his ability, and he got to the point where the world owed him a favor. I'm going, dude, look in the mirror.
Yeah, he was the worst.
All right.
Well, he took jump shots in the offseason. We always saw him on social.
He took jump shots in practice too. Before the game, I'm watching him take jump shots. In the game, his brain shrunk up.
Yeah, and the way he handled that after they lost to Atlanta, and I wasn't a big Doc Rivers guy, but basically all he said is we need to be better. Joel, the same thing, and now Ben Simmons refuses to play here.
Well, he said more than that.
Yeah.
He was asked a question about whether he could be a point guard on a championship team, and he said, I don't know. Well, that was the kiss of death because Ben took that, and that fueled him.
It did.
For the fight against the Sixers.
What did Joel say, too, because he was mad at Joel?
Yeah, he said the turning point was that play.
Where he failed to go up?
Passed up the dunk, gave it to Matisse.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, play that in my head.
It's going to be a lot better this season. Paul George is going to play a lot of games, Mike. Don't put that out there into the universe. He's going to play a lot of games.
How do you know that?
Because he's hungry, Mike. He's hungry, just like the fan base is. Paul George has never been to the finals.
He's hungry.
Yeah, he wants to go to a championship.
Wasn't hungry out there? He was playing with 2 star players. He wasn't hungry?
Yeah, I guess he was.
Wow, one of the other stars out there played even less than he did.
Yeah. Kawhi?
Yeah.
Well, Kawhi played a ton of games last year. Played 70 games in the regular season.
But if Maxey takes another leap this year, and Joel is just Joel, and he stays healthy, this is the best team George has played on in a long time.
Maxey was great yesterday, by the way. People that didn't hear him, we had him on at Sixers Media Day. He's a delightful kid.
He is, and you asked him where all that positivity comes from, and he was saying how he lived with both his grandmoms, and they told him, look, you're lucky, you're loved.
Yeah, it was a poignant answer.
Very poignant. He's an easy guy to root for, Tyrese Maxey, that's for sure.
Yeah, he really is. All right, so 610-632-0975. We started the show a long time ago with a little frustration about the Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni connection. And I want to play this again for you because Nick Sirianni has done everything to curry up to Jalen Hurts. He's made excuses for him. He's done this, and I'm not saying that Nick Sirianni has helped him appreciably. I don't know the inner workings on why Jalen Hurts would not like the guy, but he's gone out of his way not to criticize Jalen Hurts to the point where it's almost silly.
Yeah,
right?
It's obvious. I mean, even dating back to last year, and you mentioned this in the beginning of the show, when Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown ad-lib at the line of scrimmage against Seattle and throw that interception, Sirianni takes the blame for that.
Exactly.
He goes out of his way to deflect from this guy.
And then he says about the turnover doesn't really count because he was throwing the ball. Sometimes it is his fault, but on this particular play, I'm not going to say that. Does he have to have that clock ticking in his head? Of course, that's part of his job, but there are so many other different things that account for a turnover. So he's going out of his way to not put the heat on Jalen Hurts. Is it being reciprocated? Oh, I don't think so, because we're going to play the question and the answer from Jalen Hurts when asked about this particular situation.
Jalen, you and Nick are obviously big voices on the team as the head coach and the quarterback. As you enter the bye and you want to find an identity, do you two talk about maybe, what you want the message to be to the team or how you kind of want to handle, as you guys go into the second part of the year?
We have our moments.
We have our moments. You got to be kidding me. How do you answer that like that?
If that was a standalone answer, and there's not been any history of Jalen doing this before, I've said, all right, maybe we're looking too much into it. But you're getting this coming off the heels of this offseason when the last time we heard from Hurts in the offseason was, that's a really good question. When he was asked about, what does this tell you about Nick Sirianni? This has been too many instances now where this is just sports talk radio creating a controversy. Because I had people coming at me and saying, you just are trying to create a controversy. There's too many times now where Jalen Hurts has had an easy opportunity to talk positively about his head coach, and he doesn't. And you may be thinking out there right now, well, what do you want him to do, lie? Yes, I want him to lie.
Well, here's the thing. If you're a leader, that answer does not go towards being a leader. It just doesn't. It's like what we know what that answer implies. When you say an answer like that, you know what it implies. And guess what? So does the team. The team knows what that answer implies.
Exactly. And he's supposed to be the leader of this team.
The quarterback is not happy really with the head coach.
And that would have been fine. If he wanted to do that behind closed doors, go to Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman in the offseason, say, hey, look, I want to upgrade the head coach. I don't think he should come back. But once Sirianni is back as the leader of this football team, as the franchise quarterback, it's up to you to not let that type of messaging get out to everyone where you're signaling, I don't like Nick Sirianni. And really, what did this guy do to Jalen Hurts that he hates him so much?
I don't know. Maybe he did something. Who knows why he doesn't like him? I don't like Nick Sirianni because I think he's a goof. Now, maybe players look at him the same way, and that's why he doesn't have respect, because he's used to having serious button-down coaches, and that's the way he's cultivated his personality that way. But, a leader, well, that's not what that answer implies. And if teammates go, Jalen's got no respect for my man, how would they have respect for my man? How are they supposed to have respect for my man?
They're not going to. That's why I think this may be the biggest problem on the team right now. In addition to Jalen Hurts' turnovers, his lack of leadership.
And if you think we're trying to cause controversy here, you explain that answer to me. Go ahead. I'll give you free rein to explain why you would look at it like, well, it's just us causing controversy. That was a cryptic, stiff answer that implies that, this head coach, I don't feel him. That's what it implies.
Can I just get a timeout on the question that was asked?
Sure.
What has Nick Sirianni done to Jalen Hurts?
Yes. Tell me.
Did you watch the offense he was subjected to play in last year?
Tell me what he's done.
His best friend is now working for the Commanders, and people are taking Jaden Daniels over him now because it's looking a lot better for that guy than it is for him. Half of the building had to pack up their stuff and leave after last season because of the guy.
And
what
now,
are we talking about? What has he done to
here's the problem. Here's the problem I have with this whole narrative. Do we really think that Brian Johnson is the sole reason that Jaden Daniels is having success?
No, I don't think so.
But so now he leaves, and Jaden Daniels is having success, and it's all Brian Johnson was this genius, and it was all Nick Sirianni's fault. I'm sick and tired of it. I know Sirianni is a problem. I get it. But to blame him for absolutely everything that goes wrong is overstated. Jalen Hurts is a turnover machine. That's not on Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni's not telling you when you dodge a rusher in the pocket that he's still there. How do you not know he's still there? And then you're going to wind up and try to throw a 60-yard bomb and you get strip sacked. This is the problem. You can't blame Nick Sirianni for Jalen Hurts' turnovers. And if Jalen Hurts has a problem with Nick Sirianni, it's not because of the turnovers. It's not. He's not the one out there making those damn plays.
So what's gotten better from last year? Nick Sirianni's back. You got a chance to fix everything.
And now you got Kellen Moore.
Nick Sirianni got a chance to fix everything. We're 4 games in. I'm talking about the same things. I'm listening to fundamentals 25 times in the postgame on Sunday because we don't have any answers. We have the same non-answers to the same questions he's been asked.
Why are you making an excuse for Jalen Hurts here?
You're asking me what has he done to Jalen Hurts, acting like there's no reason why Jalen Hurts wouldn't like the guy.
Well, right. Let me just throw this your way. They started 10-1, and for most of that part of the season, he was an MVP candidate. So what did he do to him? That was so terrible. I'll tell you what he did to him. He took away the RPO because he was afraid the guys were going to get hurt.
As neat as we could already see last year that he wasn't moving quite right.
Yeah, okay. But, he was pretty successful early in that season.
I keep going back to the Tim McManus article that came out during the preseason. This was in the article. Quote, Jalen doesn't give Nick enough credit, the source added. A lot of what we do well does stem from Nick. Another team source described it as Hurts trying to play hero ball. Another put it, he was trying to prove he was worth $250 million on every play. It goes on. It goes on.
Yeah, I read the story like 25 times.
Multiple sources believe Hurts.
Listen, we got you.
Absolutely.
We lived this one.
I'm going to finish the point.
Okay,
Multiple sources believe Hurts absolutely tuned out Sirianni at points last season, and Hurts as a leader will need to improve on a habit of shutting people out when frustrated. A habit doesn't mean it happens once. It doesn't mean he's only shutting out Sirianni. A habit means he's doing this frequently to many people. It says people, not Nick Sirianni. People. Jalen Hurts is a problem, man. I've supported Hurts. I've defended Hurts. I was a fan of Hurts. He is a problem. He's a problem as a leader, and he's a problem as a quarterback. Whoa. And I'm starting to think that he may be the biggest problem on this Eagles team.
We got to take a break. I want to start the 1 o'clock hour with the disparity of how these two men handle each other. 610-632-0975 is how you climb in as we roll into the 1 o'clock hour right here on the Mike Missanelli Show on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Holding court.
But, Sirianni has gone to great lengths to kind of protect Jalen Hurts because he has to as a head coach. And yesterday he goes on to say sometimes it is his fault, but I'm not going to tell you, hey, on this particular one, it was. I'm not going to do that. And then he says, does he have to have the clock in his head ticking? Of course, that's part of his job as the quarterback. But there are so many different things that account for a turnover. So he's trying his hardest to take the heat off of Jalen Hurts.
Mike and Bill have been pleading their cases.
Jalen Hurts is a smart guy. This is intentional. This is intentional that he wants everybody to know that he doesn't like this guy. And here's my problem with it, Mike, and I know people are going to accuse me of being a Sirianni defender. Your starting quarterback in those 11 games has 9 interceptions, and he's put the ball on the ground 8 times. 9 interceptions, 8 fumbles, because they are the second worst team in the NFL in turnovers. Only the Tennessee Titans have more turnovers than your Philadelphia Eagles. You can blame everything on the head coach, but guess what? We have a real problem with our starting quarterback, our franchise quarterback that's supposed to be a leader of this football team. He is a bigger problem in my eyes right now than anybody else on that team.
The Mike Missanelli Show Holding Court is brought to you by Grunko Law, your law firm when you need help because of an injury. We treat every case like it's Dallas Week. Pray for peace, prepare for trial. Now back to Mike Missanelli on 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
All right, it's the 1 o'clock hour of the Mike Missanelli Show. It's brought to you by Ferguson HVAC, Lion Conklin, Attention HVAC Contractors. For equipment, parts, and supplies for every heating and cooling job, visit one of Ferguson's counter locations in Bensalem, King of Prussia, Pennsauken, or Westchester. All right, this is a very interesting dynamic between the quarterback and the head coach, where the head coach tries to go out of his way. I think the head coach knows he doesn't have a great relationship with his quarterback, but in true Nick Sirianni form, he'll go out and he'll praise his guys because he doesn't want to reveal that side, and he doesn't want to have to explain that side, and it's a lot easier to go stock with it. So, and he has gone all out, I think, to try to take the heat off of Jalen Hurts, even if he doesn't believe that Jalen Hurts is totally innocent of all these bad plays. So, an interesting soundbite after the Tampa Bay game on a question about Jalen Hurts. So, here's Nick Sirianni defending his quarterback.
I told you what I felt about. I mean, he's a winner. With the record that he has, I laugh a little bit at criticism. I mean, look at his record. Look what his record is in the past, since the beginning of 2022. Take 21 out of it. Look at the 3 times he's led his team to the playoffs. So I laugh a little bit at the criticism.
All right, that was leading into the game. So after the game, he even found a way to praise him by saying that he doesn't have to have pocket awareness, that there's a guy behind him, because he was actually in the process of throwing the football, which is ridiculous. But he goes to great lengths to be ridiculous so he doesn't offend the quarterback. The quarterback, on the other hand, apparently doesn't care. And the quarterback many times has had a chance to say something positive about his head coach. But I guess Jalen Hurts, one of these guys, is as honest that he can't lie. But it's clear that he doesn't feel the same way about Nick Sirianni. So here was the question and answer that we got, the latest one from Jalen Hurts on his coach.
Jalen, you and Nick are obviously big voices on the team as the head coach and the quarterback. As you enter the bye and you want to find an identity, do you two talk about maybe, what you want the message to be to the team, or how you kind of want to handle, as you guys go into the second part of the year?
We have our moments.
It's frustrating.
It stops me in my tracks, to be honest with you, an answer like that. Now, I would love to hear people's reaction to what we just blended together, especially the last part of it, which was we have our moments. Now, if any other quarterback in the NFL would say something like that about his coach, it would be blown up. It would be a tabloid story in New York.
And it's not the first time. You could go all the way back. Do you remember last season when they asked Jalen, do you want Nick Sirianni back? Mm-hmm. Remember his response? I didn't know he was going anywhere.
Yeah.
He refuses to say anything positive.
Oh, it's clear that he's not comfortable with this head coach. But
that's fine.
Where does it go from? If you're not comfortable with your head coach, where can it possibly go?
But that's fine if he feels that way, and maybe he's correct. But as the leader of the football team, as the franchise quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, They decided to bring him back. So what you need to do is at least publicly and to your teammates, you got to put on a face. You got to be able to turn this into a positive. What's the plan? What's Jalen's plan?
You're saying Jalen Hurts needs to turn it into a
Exactly,
positive.
because what's his plan? He wants to sabotage the season then? I mean, is that what you want? So you want to get your coach fired? You want to have a bad season? You don't want to correct what you're doing in the pocket? You don't want to correct what you're doing with the football?
Does it sound like he would mind if they fired him? Does that sound like the quarterback, like, to me, I get the vibe he would almost welcome it from what I hear from his answers.
100%. That's the vibe he's giving out. And the thing that bothers me is Jalen Hurts is not a dumb man. He is a smart guy. This has to be intentional. I don't think that he is giving these answers and they're being misinterpreted by the Philly media. He's doing this intentionally because he doesn't want anyone to be confused. I don't like Nick Sirianni.
You know what's funny? Normally in this town, fans would hate that kind of thing when a player would try to subvert the head coach. In this situation, I don't think they care because Sirianni's acceptance rate is low.
It is. But if you're not going to, people are like, oh, we can't lie. He needs to lie. If not, then just chalk up this season as a complete loss because things will spiral out of control. And I was given this analogy this morning before the show to somebody. I forget who I was talking to. Bring it over to any job, our job, any job at all. If you don't like your boss, maybe you're right for not liking your boss. But if you now start making sure that all of your coworkers know that you don't like your boss, you refuse to take any sort of direction to improve yourself in your job, you continue to make the same mistakes all while continuing to bring that negativity into your coworkers, you're a problem also. As bad as your boss may be, you're a problem also. You are going to now have that impact and effect on all of your coworkers. Jalen is doing that to his teammates. So, like it or not, Nick Sirianni's the head coach. Move on. Yeah, maybe in the offseason he gets fired, but right now, if you're trying to salvage this season, you need to be a better leader. You need to suck it up, Jalen Hurts, and not put out that negative vibe to all of your teammates, to all the Philly media, so that we have things to latch on to now and talk about all these issues that you are creating.
Were you just talking about me and my last tenure here at 97.5? or were you talking about Jalen?
I was talking about Mr. Hypothetical. Mr. Hypothetical.
Because I didn't like my head coach back then.
Yeah. Yeah, but think about it now, Mike. If you were continuously making mistakes on air,
yeah,
and
well, I never did that.
Yeah, and sharing your negativity throughout.
I took every snap.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, this is the way I'm thinking. Is this a calculated thing on Jalen Hurts' part, or is he just a weirdo? That's the thing. Because
yeah, you're right about that.
Sometimes I blur the line because he's a weird. I mean, he's a weird guy.
That's the funny thing that makes me chuckle.
Yeah, although I can't decipher whether this is really calculated or whether he's just that weird.
You know, you got to try and be the coffee bean.
He is a strange cat. He is a strange cat.
All right. 610-632-09. I can't tell. I don't know with this guy. He's a very strange man.
And I don't want people to misconstrue what I'm saying here. Sirianni is also a problem. I'm not saying that Sirianni is doing this excellent job. The team didn't show up, but it only gets compounded when the franchise quarterback is acting this way. So that's why he is a big part of the problem.
I got to hear the soundbite one more time. I got to hear. I can't process it.
Jalen, you and Nick are obviously big voices on the team as the head coach and the quarterback. As you enter the bye and you want to find an identity, do you two talk about maybe, what you want the message to be to the team or how you kind of want to handle, as you guys go into the second part of the year?
We have our moments. We have our moments.
Dude,
we have our moments.
It's mind-boggling to me, that statement.
And look, the people who defend Hurts, they were tweeting at me last night. Oh, because he said we have our moments? No, it's not just that answer. It's that answer put with what he said about him after mandatory minicamp, what he said about him at the end of last season. Every opportunity he has, that's a softball question, he goes out of his way to refuse to throw any positivity towards his head coach.
Forget about the other things. That particular, are you telling me that particular soundbite does not sound weird to you?
It was
They
weird.
make the case that it doesn't sound weird, because it sounds weird to me. So if you can make an argument that it's just normal, then I'd love to hear it. 610-632-0975 is how you climb into the show. A big, busy 1 o'clock hour. Let's get it started right here on the Mike Missanelli Show.
Ricky Batalico.
You want to blame the offense and say they had all these guys injured and blah, blah, blah. Fine. The defense sucked.
Has plenty to say about sports in Philly.
The defense was absolutely brutal. Whoever watched that game
To protect Jalen Hurts right now. That's fine. Let me just make my my position clear here. I don't like Nick Sirianni. I wouldn't have brought him back. I think he's a goof as a head coach. But I also, by the same measure, can recognize with my own 2 ears what's going on here if the coach is not overly endorsing his head coach, which every quarterback seems to do, and the ones that don't get criticized, including Aaron Rodgers. And if you can't see there's a disconnect when a guy answers a question like we have our moments and that's it, then you don't want to believe it. That's fine. But that's very indicative to me. In any event, let me just a couple quick things before we get to the phones here. So last night I was watching ESPN Sports Center. And it was Jay Harris and Hannah Storm.
Hannah Storm's been doing that for a long time.
Yeah. So I've been watching it. All of a sudden I get a text from my buddy Kevin at 7:11 p.m. that says Pete Rose R.I.P. Now I'm watching Sports Center. Nothing's coming up. So I go to the website. Nothing's on the website. It's not until they interview Eduardo Perez about the baseball playoffs coming up, and Eduardo says, I have some breaking news for you, blah, blah, blah. TMZ Sports had it like 20 minutes before Eduardo Perez even. I'm going, how is it possible that ESPN would not have that story on time?
The only thing I could think of is TMZ is willing to run with something before they get more confirmation than maybe Sports Center needs. Because, I mean, this happens a lot. I mean, Terry Bradshaw died 10 years ago. Do you remember that one? Everyone thought Terry Bradshaw died because it wasn't ever confirmed that it was accurate. I mean, stuff like that happens. So I could understand Sports Center wanting to make sure they had actual confirmation from a reputable source. Your friend may have read it on Twitter for all we know.
No, he read it on TMZ.com.
Yeah, to Bill's point, I would go journalistic standards.
TMZ, they don't care.
I think probably staffing, too, if I had to guess, with ESPN.
Staffing? There wasn't enough staff to check into it?
The number of people that were going into it. That would be like the secondary guess behind just journalistic standards. Because TMZ does run pretty much as quickly as they get information. That stuff is up.
Yeah. Well, they must have had confirmation to put it out there. Eduardo Perez comes on and goes, I checked, and I can confirm it. Eduardo Perez confirmed it.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt that he's tapped in.
Well, yeah, he said he got it from Pete Rose Jr.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's a reputable source, Pete Rose's son.
Yeah,
you don't know where TMZ heard it.
I don't understand why ESPN can't get a reputable source by calling Pete Rose Jr. Well,
maybe they did, but it takes some time.
I find it mind-boggling. They were doing a show. It was like 20 minutes the news story had broke. They still hadn't mentioned it.
Yeah, they got to be careful, though. I mean, you got to be careful. I just remember.
I get it, but listen. If you're a news gathering agency like ESPN, it's the worldwide leader for crying out loud. You got to have that. All right. What's the other thing? What is this CJ GJ Instagram story, right? That you're talking about?
Yeah. So we talked today about Darius Slay going on the podcast with Micah Parsons. C.J. Gardner-Johnson on his Instagram story, just a black screen with the word damn and 6 periods.
Damn, 6 periods?
Yeah. Just a black screen.
What was that supposed to mean?
I guess we're assuming it's related to Slay's
comments. Could it be related to Slay and his teammate going on making jokes about his performance with Micah Parsons?
Can these guys, use a cell phone? Oh, yeah? You use a cell phone? Yeah, Holmes. What'd you just do? Something like that?
I guess.
All right.
It's a different world, Michael.
It's a different world, and this situation right now, even though they're only 2-2, seems like somebody's shooting holes in it. All right, let's go to David on the cell. David, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, how you guys doing?
What's up, David?
Hey, listen, I'm so tired of people twisting Jalen Hurts' words up, but here's what I don't like about Jalen Hurts. I see it different, but if people see it the way they do, why wouldn't he say something good about the coach just to put all this crap to rest?
Well, that's what we're asking.
Yeah. I know. That's why I'm agreeing with you guys at the end. That he is smart enough to know that all this stuff is being said, that he should say something for the team.
Well, first of all, how's the media twisting up stuff about Jalen Hurts?
Because what he said is not what everybody is saying. It's our opinion.
What do you mean? I get what you're saying.
The last comment he made, we have our moments. To me, that's not saying nothing super nasty.
It's not saying anything positive either.
Supportive. That's why I'm agreeing with you at the end.
Oh, okay.
It's not.
Well, but we're not. Listen, we're not twisting up anything. He said it, not me.
Well, I don't mean much to you guys. I'm talking about how a lot of fans and stuff take it. You know.
Well, but you're taking it the same way, dude.
But I am blaming Jalen for it, though.
Oh, that's what I'm still. So what's twisted about it? You heard what he said. You took what you took out of it, just like we did. So where's the twist?
I guess, but Jalen just needs to straighten out because he's a smart guy. So he's doing this on purpose.
Well, yeah, I think he is. I think he wants his displeasure with his head coach made known.
Hey, Mike, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you take, let's go with some top quarterbacks: Brady, Ron Jaworski, Joe Montana. What do they all have in common with Jalen?
I have no idea.
Can I tell you? They all threw almost as many interceptions as him several years, and they turned out to be great. So I'm not going to put Jalen out to pasture yet.
Well, you're talking about Tom Brady, the best of all time.
Exactly. He's thrown 14, 15 interceptions a few times.
Yeah, all due respect, Ron Jaworski wasn't great. He was a good quarterback.
I know, but I'm saying all of them turn out to be good, so I think Jalen can still.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think he can too.
He can still turn out to be good.
Listen, here's what I know: you're not getting rid of Jalen Hurts. No. The coach will go before Jalen Hurts. You sign him to a long-term deal for a lot of money. He's your franchise quarterback. I'm not suggesting for a minute that they need to change a quarterback. I think it's ridiculous to think that.
Now, Jalen Hurts will be the quarterback for at least a couple more seasons, but no head coach, Bill Belichick, Andy Reid, Sean Payton, I don't care how good of a head coach you are, no head coach survives bad quarterback play. So, yes, Sirianni will be gone a lot sooner than Jalen Hurts. Mm-hmm. And if the turnovers continue, no matter what Nick Sirianni does, he will be out of here because of Jalen Hurts.
Unless they believe that much in Kellen Moore, where they would trade for another quarterback. I can't see that's going to happen. But
now Jalen's going to be your guy, and he probably will get at least one more head coach. If Jalen continues, and I'm not saying that this can't be fixed, but if this continues and the team continues to spiral and turnovers continue to be an issue, Nick will be gone, and Jalen will get another head coach. And if he can't perform under that head coach, then they'll consider replacing him.
Just to be clear, earlier on, 12 o'clock hour, when I went back at this whole Jalen Hurts thing, it was mentioned that Jalen Hurts was an MVP candidate through 11 games, and that's partially credit to Sirianni. We talk about good quarterback play. Are we going to say that there is anything that the head coach has done to hamper said quarterback's play? Because if he was an MVP candidate, and we've seen Nick Sirianni has all these wins, and he's racked up all these wins, and there's so much good, you can't just judge him by the end of last season. Part of the reason why he's still here is because his quarterbacks played at such a high level for him in the past.
Yeah, but if you look at last season, okay, the last season, the Philadelphia Eagles offense still finished in the top 8 in terms of yards per game. They still finished in the top 7 in terms of points per game. What was a major difference between the 2023 Philadelphia Eagles offense and the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles offense that went to a Super Bowl? One glaring difference. They went from 19 turnovers to 28 turnovers. They went from a +8 turnover differential to a -10 turnover differential. Now, we can blame the coach. We can blame the offensive coordinator. And, yes, they play a part in it. But when you really look deep into the numbers, Jalen Hurts' turnovers, to me, are the biggest issue as to what is holding the offense back more than anything else.
I would say probably the fact that they haven't been able to get out to a good start offensively for, since prior to that Buffalo game has been a big issue with what this team has been able to do. They put up a lot of yards. Yeah, they put up yards. Some of those games they put up points. But you go back to last season, if we're looking at this team since that Buffalo game, really, because they get down to that game. They get down to Kansas City, and then we know exactly what happens to them the rest of the way. Yeah. We haven't seen that team start quickly, regardless of offensive coordinator, regardless who you give credit to the offense. And that's part to blame Jalen Hurts. I don't want to let Jalen Hurts off the hook in this conversation. But to just say that, like, blind support here of Sirianni in this instance, he has reason to be frustrated with his head coach. Because we've seen how many coaches come through these doors right now, and right now, nobody's got an answer. And we're asking the same questions every week. He's hearing the same thing every week at this point.
Yeah, but is he? Did they also placate him by taking the offensive responsibilities away from Nick Sirianni, giving it to Kellen Moore? Wasn't that supposed to improve the situation?
And yet he saw in one of the biggest moments that we've had so far this season, everything returned to Nick Sirianni. So does he feel like everything's been taken from Nick Sirianni, or is Nick Sirianni still looming over his shoulder?
Wait, what do you?
Good point, Ray.
Wait, what went back to Sirianni?
He's had the fake
from him.
tush push on 4th and 1. That was his call.
Yeah.
He's very clear on that.
And that's the reason that Jalen Hurts has thrown interceptions and fumbling the ball in the pocket.
But he's having Nick Sirianni interfere again with this. He's seeing this happen again. He got frustrated with him at 10-1. How do you think he feels at 2-2?
That Nick's got his fingers in the Play-Doh, is what he's saying.
And if Jalen Hurts is that mentally weak, that if his head coach decides to call a 4th and 1 play that he doesn't like, that now he can't control turnovers in 4 games. And I have people tweeting at me, giving me the...
He can be blamed as well.
And that's my point, is I said that Sirianni deserves a lot of the blame. He's the head coach. It all stops with him. The team wasn't ready to play. That's on Sirianni. I just don't understand this narrative of people who will blindly defend Jalen Hurts. And I'm a Jalen Hurts guy. I thought that this guy could still get back to the 2022 form. But the turnovers, I don't think you can blame anyone but Jalen Hurts for these turnovers. You can't just say, oh, well, Nick Sirianni's a bozo. That's why he throws the ball in the end zone and interceptions in the red zone. That's why he fumbles the ball constantly. And people keep tweeting at me that Patrick Mahomes has more interceptions than Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
right?
Okay, we need to stop with that.
But, yeah, because what you're not factoring in is Jalen Hurts has 5 fumbles this year. Mahomes has 0. So you can't just look at the interceptions. The turnovers also include these fumbles.
Take Twitter out of this for a second, and I'll shut up in 15 seconds here with this point. If you were the quarterback of a team where you know you're going to be questioned and you know that you're trying to deliver success for this program, and you see your head coach as an obstacle for that, would you not be frustrated right now? Would you not be pressing out there on the field? We talk about Hero Ball. Hero Ball isn't just trying to prove you're worth $250 million. It's trying to prove something that you can go out there and succeed even in circumstances that you don't feel are favorable to you.
But I guess where we're disagreeing is I don't see Sirianni as this major obstacle to Jalen Hurts because he stepped in and called the 4th and 1 play. I mean, this is we heard this last year.
Stop taking the smallest part of the argument. Look at the big picture here. They've stunk for over a season.
I'm sitting here trying to run a show, and it says break at 1:26.
That's on me.
And you guys just are plowing through the break. You see what I have to deal with? The lack of discipline in this room.
We have our moments. We have our moments.
The Mike Missanelli Show back after this. talk a little bit about this more tomorrow. It's General Knowledge Wednesday tomorrow, but we got to get in a little baseball mode as well this week. And I tweeted out something last night after I saw what the Mets did in Game 1 against the Braves, and then they didn't care after that. But that team fights. I don't want to admit it because obviously I don't like them, but that team leads the league in coming back to win games late innings. Their numbers are mind-boggling. And they were down and out in that first game yesterday. They come back with a 6 spot, and then Atlanta goes ahead, and then they take the lead again. That shows a requisite toughness. So what I'm saying is I wasn't, and I'm still not, but I'm a little afraid of playing the Mets.
Oh, boy. I thought this was a great team the Phillies had. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's more what the other team has been doing. They're on a roll, and they got a toughness about them. They've got that belief system. All these players are coming out of nowhere doing great things for them, including that Iglesias. And Lindor's back. It's a 3-run home run like it was nothing. And Nimmo's been hitting home runs. I'm going, what the hell is happening with this team?
Got a good closer. Diaz has been good.
Well, he's not good. He's erratic, and that's, I think, a weak link. The Phillies didn't get to that fool.
He's been good, though.
Yeah, he's also been bad. So,
but they are the best team in baseball since May 30th. The Mets.
They scare me a little bit. I gotta be honest. If they lose to the Mets, can you imagine the disappointment that would be?
I don't even want to.
And I'm going to put this out there now. If the Mets beat the Brewers, and you're a season ticket holder for the Philadelphia Phillies, if you sell your tickets to Mets fans and Mets fans take over the bank, I will lose my mind. We let it pass at the Wells Fargo Center for the first round of the Sixers playoff series against the Knicks. There is no way in hell that the Mets fans should take over Citizens Bank Park for a playoff game in Red October. That would be an embarrassment.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I don't think that will happen.
I hope you're right.
All right, Terrell in Philly. Terrell, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
How's everybody doing?
What's up, Terrell?
So before I get to my main point, I just want to thank the 49ers organization for not budging on trading Ayuk to the Commanders. That would have been a problem.
Oh, man, I haven't thought about that, Terrell. That's a good point, man. With how well Jaden Daniels is playing, if he had Ayuk, damn.
Yeah, that would have been bad.
Jaden Daniels is going to hit a wall, I predict.
I think we'll be fine. I think when the best players on our team come back, A.J. Brown, Monte Smith, and Omar from the Wire, Lane Johnson, I think we just need to get through these last 2 weeks, man. I think everybody's scared of Lane Johnson. That's why.
Why is Lane Johnson Omar from the Wire?
Because everybody's scared of him. He terrifies everybody.
Okay.
Oh, and Lane Johnson coming. And Lane Johnson coming.
I got to be honest with you. I was more terrified by Marlowe.
I know. We need to bench. We need to bench Tobias Doxson too. That guy is really a no-show. Like, I don't know what's going on. The guy that the Commanders signed in place of Doxson, Noah Brown, I think his name. He has over 100 yards already.
Yeah, was didn't Zacchaeus have 10 catches somewhere?
And then,
Zacchaeus had 11 targets and 10 catches this weekend.
That's crazy. I think Doxson needs to be benched, and I think we might need
I don't know what's going on with that kid. Maybe he's lost his heart for the game. I thought he was going to be an impact player.
Tobias Harris, he's the NFL's version of Tobias Harris.
I want to give Dotson a little bit more time, though. Get used to the offense. I mean, look, you are coming to a new team. He came in late. He didn't have a full training camp here. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, but it can't continue.
Hurting me. Penn State are not performing. That hurts me.
You know what's crazy to me? Is that Nelson Aguilar's still out there making plays. We kind of gave him a bad rap here. Like, people, I don't know if they remember Aguilar as fondly as they should. He played a big part in the Eagles winning that Super Bowl. Aguilar played a big part in the Eagles winning the Super Bowl.
Maybe he did in one game. He was a bust.
No, he made some nice plays here.
Come on, man.
I'm telling you, we all remember.
For his draft status, he was more bad than good.
We all remember the clip of the guy catching babies out of the fire and says, we were catching babies, unlike Aguilar.
Well, guess what? That came for a reason.
Dude, go back to that Super Bowl. Aguilar had a good game.
You can't just look at one game and say that wipes away his whole inefficiency as an Eagle.
He had that playoff run, he had 15 catches, 167 yards. That Super Bowl year,
that's okay.
That Super Bowl year, 62 catches, 768. I mean, when you think about the fact that this guy bounced back from what looked like he was going to be out of football.
Are you serious now?
He's still
We're
playing.
going to sit here praising Nelson Aguilar on this show?
I'm going to praise Nelson Aguilar today. The fact that the guy's still playing.
Who cares?
He's still contributing.
Who cares? Nelson Aguilar, we're wasting time on.
And he won a Super Bowl here, so I'll take it.
Sometimes you veer into lanes.
Let me ask you.
What?
I'd rather have Aguilar than Dotson as my third wide receiver.
You'd rather no, because Dotson hasn't done a thing. That's why you would want to have Aguilar?
Exactly. You just made my point. Aguilar at least has 5 catches for 85 yards this year, along of 56 already.
Let's go. Come on. Seriously. Let's go.
This is the guy telling you that Jalen Hurts is the Eagles' biggest problem.
Man. Listen, all I'm saying is we don't remember Aguilar as fondly as we should. All right? He helped this team win its only Super Bowl. That's my point. And he's still playing. And he is still playing. But I got Mike all flustered now. People on YouTube are telling me I lost my mind.
No, I have a friend that's like you, so it's all right.
I'm telling you.
I'm used to this.
Aguilar was better than we give him credit for. Was he worthy of a first-round pick, 20th overall? Probably not.
No, I don't think better than what we thought. I think we got it right on that one. I think it's just ultimately we can acknowledge there was a good stretch in there that helped them win the Super Bowl. I don't need to say that I was wrong on my assessment of Nelson Aguilar. I think the guy with the babies was right.
That is probably the funniest thing that's ever happened when it came to sports is that guy. In that moment.
You get some pub out of that, too.
Ton of pub. But how about him? Aguilar then invited him to the game. He turned him down. He said, no, I'm not going to do that.
Really dropped the ball on that one.
Oh.
That's pretty good. I've been trying to get these Phillies tickets. Have you had problems with this?
Are you trying to get tickets to the game?
Yeah.
No, they
my password. I'm trying to reset my password. They keep telling me they're going to send a link to my inbox, my email, and I don't get it.
Ray, I'm the one that gets accused of ADD. We're here in the middle of a discussion, and Mike's trying to reset a password on his cell phone.
Because I just got a text saying the deadline's coming up. Blah blah blah. Have you got?
I put my phone on Do Not Disturb so I could be 100% connected to you.
I'm sorry.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, now that he said it, I'm looking at tickets too. But
they actually invited me. Rob Thompson, he said that he wanted my analysis on the fourth starter. So I'm going to be down there with Topper.
That's good.
Well, now we know why they're losing.
You're going to be there with Topper.
I'm not afraid of the Mets anymore. I'm afraid of that exact scenario.
So let me ask you, though, Mike. You did say you're a little bit nervous of the Mets, so you would prefer the Brewers then? You'd rather have the Brewers win that series?
Yeah, but the Brewers have good pitching. Probably better pitching than the Mets. The Mets have...
the Brewers got a good bullpen.
The Mets are on this dangerous wave. Like, you see these teams that go, well, like, what? Man, what? And they seem unfettered when they get down. Like, I've seen teams like that before. You know, they have. When you look at them, you go, okay, we're a better team than them. But they somehow, over the last month or so, have really played with a lot of spunk.
You know what I'm thinking is happening here?
What's that?
I think you're backpedaling a little bit. I think that you are now building up the Mets.
I said I am not afraid of any team that the Phillies would play. But when I watched that game, the first game of that doubleheader yesterday, I said, "Oh, you got to be kidding me! This team, like a team down and out in a game like that, they're getting shut out, and all of a sudden it's here comes the eighth inning and they erupt." I go, that shows me something.
That was a wild.
Yeah, I mean you can't just ignore something like that. I mean, in other words, they weren't down and out; they still battled. And I'm afraid of a team that battles late in games.
I want it to be such a battle that goes 3 games for whatever team. Don't let someone take it in 2, especially if it's the Mets, because I don't think they have to start pitching to withstand Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, to come back Saturday.
Yeah. Speaking of the starting pitching, how about Chris Sale? Not going to pitch at all in the wild card.
That's right. Cast your ballot for Zach Wheeler to be your Cy Young.
You think that'll have any impact on the fact that he didn't pitch? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
He's still your Cy Young winner.
Probably. I'd feel comfortable with that ticket right now if I had it.
Braves are going down anyway. They're about done.
Yeah, it's a Diamondback. Having a crazy win 5 more games than they did a season ago when you won the pennant and you don't make the playoffs.
That's the way it rolls, brother. That's the way it rolls. You got to do what you need to do.
I'm just.
Jalen Hurts say that? Was that Jalen Hurtsism? You got to do
Keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah, something like
We
that.
didn't play to the standard.
Yeah.
Diamondbacks didn't play the standard at the end.
main
But
thing,
how
the
many
main
times in history
Now,
did that happen?
One thing we didn't talk about that Jalen Hurts said, either in his it was his post game. He said, "We really have to have that so what now what mentality." Now we made fun of Nick Sirianni for saying Coach Dan said so what now what. Jalen actually dropped that in his post game press conference.
Well, thankfully he's supporting his coach the way he should.
Maybe he's listening to Nick Sirianni.
All right. It's time for what? What?
Closing arguments.
Now, closing arguments on the Mike Missanelli Show. Brought to you by Lowenthal and Abrams Injury Attorneys. Injured in an accident, call 800-876-LAWYER or visit LowenthalAbrams.com.
Well, I could make this closing argument about Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, but I think we've talked a lot about that. So I'm going to go to the Pete Rose side. Pete Rose died, and he leaves a very complicated legacy about whether he belongs in the Hall of Fame. All along, I've believed that he does belong in the Hall of Fame, but I know all the arguments against it. I think that as time goes on, like 5 years down the road, I think something will soften up to the point where they put him in. Now, my good friend Jason Stark writes a story today and says the following. If any commissioner wanted to ever change his mind, what version of any veterans committee would ever elect him? Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens found out 2 years ago that their door is still slammed shut. So why would we think Rose would be any different? Well, here's the difference, in my opinion. Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens are restricted getting in the Hall of Fame because their usage of steroids influenced their performance and may have influenced their lofty numbers, which made them Hall of Fame worthy. The same cannot be said for Pete Rose. Gambling on baseball, him saying he bet on his own team, whatever. I know it's against the rules, but now that the climate has changed with the betting and teams being in bed with betting companies, I'm thinking in 5 years this makes a difference and that Pete Rose gets into the Hall of Fame posthumously. And I think that most people would say they're okay with that.
I don't have strong feelings one way or another. I really don't. But the argument that gambling is such a big part of sports now and that they advertise it and they do all these things, to me, a lot of people are using that argument as to why Pete Rose should get in. I think that could be used for the opposite. You need to keep the integrity of the sport. You cannot, in a world where gambling is so prevalent, have your players or your coaches betting on the sport that they play. So I'm concerned. I don't think Major League Baseball wants to send that message, letting Pete Rose in now in light of how big gambling is a part and it's so vocal and out there. You just saw the NBA suspend a guy for an entire lifetime ban. We've had issues with the NFL. Isaiah Rodgers on the Eagles suspended last year. I'm just not sure you send that message. I don't think they ever let him in.
You could be right, but I would say Rob Manfred's not going to be the commissioner for forever. The next commissioner might be a younger guy who's been brought up into this gambling culture and might not think it's that big a deal and push for it. So the committee that elects will let him in. Who knows? But anyway, we lost Pete Rose. We lost Dikembe Mutombo. Both of them had an impact on the sports world, especially Dikembe. Had an impact on the humanitarian ward. Thanks for everybody who joined the show today. Thanks to Larry Brown. Thanks to Larry Boa. Thanks to the callers who had a lot of feisty things to say about the subject we're talking about. Tomorrow we're back with General Knowledge Wednesday. Ray against the audience, and we'll have a good prize for everybody. So everybody, please tune in tomorrow. Have a great rest of the night, and we'll talk to you then.